It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, the 24th day of June 2025. Welcome aboard the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I like to say this is the best breakfast show on the block. It's the most informative, the most educative, and the most analytical breakfast show on the block. Now this morning, like we always do, we have a 4-hour packed show for you, the AM show, and the first on our order will be the AM news. After that, we'll bring you the AM sports, and that will bring the news belt to an end. Then we get into the conversation, starting with the news review segment. And our guest who joined us today for that, Haruna Mohammed, is Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Wanda Madilo is from the NDC Communications Directorate, and both gentlemen will be joining us to review the newspapers and the stories in there. And for our big stories today, we have two separate stories coming your way that we want to get incisive with. First, we're bracing ourselves for the West, for a country that has a fuel import bill of $400 million a month. What are the options in the wake of escalating feud between Israel and Iran, with the latter threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, where more than a fifth of global oil trade passes? With Fitch predicting depletion in Ghana's international reserve with a fragile global gold price outlook, can Ghana sustain gains made in recent times? We'll delve into the issues and the geopolitical dimensions in this Israel-Iranian, and might I add, the USA, because they've entered the war. So for those who live and breathe football, we have another big story for you. A livelihood, a source of national pride, but marred with violence, which has invaded the pitch, and the consequences are harrowing. We'll bring you that Hotline Joy News documentary, Scars of Hooliganism, produced by Haruna Mubarak, and he's exploring how acts of hooliganism leave a lasting mark on the lives, careers, and mental well-being of those who endure them. You don't want to miss a thing this morning on the AM show with me, Sweetie Abochi. I'm inviting you to join me with your comments and thoughts via social media across all platforms. We are Joy News on TV, and hopefully today we open the phone line so you get to have your say. The AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties, and we provide quality housing at affordable cost with flexible payment options. Welcome aboard the morning show. Welcome aboard the AM news. Now, coming up in a bit. This is the AM News, and I'm bringing you the details right now. Starting with some farmers in Mempasem, a small farming community in Samreboy in the Western region, are appealing to the president to help them get compensated for large tracts of their cocoa farms destroyed by Akonta Mining Limited without their consent. The farmers say their cocoa farms on yield were forcibly taken over with guns and destroyed for gold. They say all attempts through the Cocoa Board to get justice have proven futile. Erastus Asaridonko was there and filed this report.
This large mined-out area at Mempasem used to be sprawling cocoa farms. This farmer shows me where his farm used to be. This whole area used to be a big cocoa farm that we've been tending and harvesting for 5, 6, 7 years. What pains me is that they destroyed the farm at a time when the farm has gained one of its biggest yields. He tells me how armed men guarding Akonta Mining's operations in Samreboy forcibly took over the farm and destroyed it after he refused to sell.
Akonta Mining ebe krum ha ebe ye adwuma bebre obae na oso kita certificate a echese oso ye adwuma enti
Akonta Mining has been mining here for a long time. They told us they have a mining license. I'm a cocoa farmer. Between me and my family, we had more than 50 acres of cocoa farm. Managers of Akonta Mining approached us to sell our cocoa, but we told them, as for our cocoa, we will never sell it for galamsey. One night, we had information they were mining on the farm. I rushed there together with a friend of mine and found them destroying the cocoa. They were destroying it in a manner that was so cruel.
ana jopa anti me medaf ba ko ne koye ye koye a te say aso mu wi ade nti no omo ye no omkeka kokko ni gui basa in fact na ya nisu ade nti na obi na ade oso mfa ma ho na wa wo do wo pe wo dey say okay enye hwe so when I say power is like an alcohol, it's volatile into utumi na wo dey say you ye makoko board penfo efi akra e buy.
We invited Cocoa Board officials to Samreboy and we went to the farm together. We met Chemawuntumi's people who were wielding guns and they prevented us from entering our farm. Footprints of Akunta Mining's operations are dotted all over Samreboy. Other farmers accuse the company of destroying their cocoa farms without compensation.
As I say, more than 1.5 kilometers.
Our land, close to 1.5 kilometers, have been mined and destroyed without them paying us not even a dime.
Owner
of Akunta Mining Limited, Bernard Enchubosiako, was recently arrested in connection with illegal mining operations. The farmers want President Mahama to step in to help get compensation for their losses. Government should help us get our compensation due us legally. Government should help us because we have children. We are helpless. We are facing severe hardships. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Mempasem, Samreboy, Western Region.
Hashtag No to Galamsey is still very active and is still on, so use your voice to join the call. In other stories, former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Yao Echampong Boafo, has cautioned the Attorney General and his office against laying charges in the public domain before officially presenting them in court. According to him, it is both unethical and legally inappropriate for prosecutors to disclose the substance of criminal investigations or allegations through the media ahead of formal judicial proceedings. He said such practices undermine the integrity of Ghana's justice system and risks prejudicing potential trials. Nana Boachi Yadom has more from the 20th anniversary celebration of the KNUST Law Faculty.
The 20th anniversary celebration of the KNUST Law Faculty was under the theme, Law with Honor, Shaping an Ethical Legal Generation for the Global Market. Several ideas from guest speakers such as Justice Kwabena Twumasi of the High Court pointed at transforming the legal profession through ethics. Speaking to the press, former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Yao Boafo, cautioned lawyers to depoliticize the profession by upholding integrity.
There are over 7,000 lawyers in Ghana. Most of them are doing what is right. Most of them are keeping the ethics. But unfortunately, those in the public space are the ones that people used to refer to us. Especially now that most people in politics believe that they need a law degree to have. You have a lot of esquires in politics, and some of them are engaging in behavior that really does not sit well with the way we do things. But I think that the public should be fair to us and look at what lawyers do daily. Of the 7,000 or so lawyers that we have in Ghana, how many of them are engaged in misbehavior? How many of them are engaged in egregious conduct? That is why in my speech I cautioned our colleagues that, listen, be fair to us, because as a lawyer, I know very well what the procedure says. I know what the procedure requires. I know very well what the law would expect. But to the lay person...
Mr. Boafo raised concern over how some high-profile cases are handled by the Attorney General, often with charges being laid publicly before they are filed in courts. He emphasized that such conduct not only contravenes the principle of fair trial, but also damages the reputation of individuals who may later be found innocent.
I feel very uncomfortable with Attorneys General speaking after court processes. I feel very uncomfortable with attorney generals before somebody's charged in court, laying their charges in public. Those things are not right. Because you see, Rule 38 of the professional etiquette which aborts it. For example, when I was in office, there were times I had cause, the GB had cause to draw the attention of the past Attorney General to comments he made post the Atoforsen Court of Appeal decision. Those things are not right. I don't want to hear lawyers standing out of court premises giving commentary of matters pending when the judge would not have the right to respond, and the public pick up on that and the judge gets insulted. You get the point. I don't like the fact that attorneys general should be standing in public laying out charges of people who are yet to respond. No, that's not right. I don't like the situation where lawyers come out of courtrooms and then come and run a different commentary based on their political lenses. It does our profession harm. So the issue is true, yes. It's us lawyers who are not being fair to our profession. Unfortunately, that's a very, let me use the word, I'll use a significant minority because people are listening to them. But they don't even form 0.01% of lawyers in practice. The average lawyer in Ghana is doing the right thing.
The 20th LSU Week celebration focuses on educating law students on how to uphold ethics while growing in the field. For Joy News, Nana Boachidankwayadom, Kumasi.
From Kumasi, let me take you now to Cape Coast, because residents in Cape Coast affected by the collapsed building in London Bridge and the ongoing demolition exercise are smiling with hope following a generous donation by the Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, George Owu. Speaking during a visit to the community to present the items, Hagen assured community members he will present the situation in Parliament to solicit government support and promised a fund of 100,000 Ghana cedis to support those without shelter due to the demolition. Here's more.
Assuring residents affected by the London Bridge building collapse and demolition exercise of appealing for government support, the Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, George Owu, indicated plans to maintain and sustain historic structures in Cape Coast.
I think we will be embarking on a project of restoration of historical houses here in Cape Coast. That's what we should be doing. Now, if we tear down the houses, this place will become a building site. The whole of Cape Coast will be a building site. So we will take people out of the houses they live in, if they are fragile houses, and we'll look at a proper plan on how houses will be restored here in Cape Coast. That will be the approach, restoration of old houses. And we'll be putting a team together to do that job. But this week, I will bring this to the attention of Parliament. I will be reading a statement in the Chamber of Parliament to bring this issue to the attention of Ghanaians, what has happened here. Something happened in the Volta region. The MPs brought it to the attention of Parliament. So we will also do the same. And they will be soliciting help, because this is not just one day help that we're going to give to people. You can feed them today, but what will they do tomorrow? We can give them blankets and all that, but we're looking at long term.
The MC for Cape Coast, George Justice Arthur, applauded the MP's generous gesture and affirmed the MP's plans of preserving and maintaining historic buildings in Cape Coast.
This has been his trait. It's something that he's been doing over the years. So if it has happened within his constituency and has demonstrated this level of commitment and empathy, I mean, it's very good. And I agree with him that some ancient building must be maintained and we need to do restorations. So we will all collaborate and make sure that we restore most of the buildings, ancient buildings that has historical antecedent in this metropolis. And the amount of money is also donated. It's indeed a welcoming news. We will make sure we utilize it as much as it can, so that the people who have found themselves in this devastating state will be satisfied in another way.
Some beneficiaries of the donation shared some words of gratitude. From Cape Coast, Abigail Lissel in Coma reports. For Joy News.
A professor in educational leadership at the Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, Professor George Owu, has commended government's commitment to promoting public-private partnerships regarding education. He shared this during the launch of the maiden scholarship scheme of the Daniel Into Obi's Foundation. According to Professor Owu, although government has made several strides to improve education in Ghana, the efforts are not enough to promote access to and equity in quality education, rather. Hence, the need for private collaborations and contributions in helping the needy Ghanaians have access to quality education.
The Central Regional Director of Education, Dr. Juliet Dufio-Otame, described the maiden scholarship instituted by the Daniel Into Obi Foundation a timely intervention.
The establishment of this foundation is a powerful and timely intervention. And today's ceremony signals a commendable commitment to nurturing the potential of brilliant but underprivileged students across Ghana. In a world where access to quality education remains the gateway to opportunity, equity and national development, the Daniel Into Obi Foundation has stepped forward to bridge the gap that often exists between talent and opportunity. By supporting deserving students in tertiary institutions, the foundation is not only alleviating financial burdens, but also investing in the future leaders, innovators, and change makers of our country. I salute the vision and generosity of the founders, trustees, and supporters of this foundation.
The Daniel Into Obi Foundation is a foundation committed to education, community development, and youth empowerment. Elizabeth Obese, the president of the foundation, highlights the significance of the scholarship.
The maiden scholarship, the foundation is awarding 26 scholarships to scholars from 6 political regions and then 8 tertiary institutions. University of Cape Coast, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, University for Development Studies, University of Health and Allied Sciences, CK Tedam, University for Technology and Applied Sciences, and then Savannah College of Education, as well as Kumasi Technical University. These are where the 26 students are coming from. Out of the 26 students, 11 are female and then 15 are male.
A professor in educational leadership at the Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, Professor George Owu, lauded the scholarship scheme, acknowledging government's efforts in enhancing access to quality education.
One thing that is very commendable is the fact that, unlike other scholarship schemes, foundations that are limited to communities, the Daniel Into Obi Foundation cuts across the country, awarding scholarships to people from different regions and across disciplines and institutions. And so we say a very big thank you to them.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
Now, imagine walking about 5 kilometers to attend to basic health needs like malaria or headache at a referral health facility. Pregnant women who are in labor sometimes are unable to make it. They sometimes deliver on the road, and this has been the ordeal of the people of Brutu community in the Nandom municipality of the Upper West region. However, health resource partners have put smiles on their faces by constructing and commissioning the CHIPS compound for the Brutu community. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafik Salam reports from Brutu.
The people of Brutu community in the Nandom municipality of the Upper West region have for decades been living without any health facility. Residents of the community have to walk about 5 kilometers to the St. Teresa's Hospital in Nandom to access basic health services. The St. Teresa Hospital is the last referral health facility in the municipality, hence its busy nature. Pregnant women and even those suffering from a simple headache in Brutu will have to cover the 5 kilometers distance to seek medical services. An ordeal shared by the Assembly member, Patrick Nyoro, with Joy News.
During the rainy season, there is always a flood. There is a valley on the way. People find it difficult to go to the main hospital during the rainy season. Sometimes the pregnant women doesn't get there. When they are in labor, sometimes they give birth on the road. And sometimes by the river, where the flat is.
However, through the community's initiative of writing proposals to the government and non-governmental organizations, health resource partners came to their aid by providing all materials to build a befitting CHIPS compound for the community. Country Director of Health Resource Partners, Jeremiah Wonononyozagli, shared how the project started and what the organization seeks to achieve.
So the community actually wrote a proposal to health resource partners seeking for support to build a CHIPS compound like this. So the proposal was reviewed, examined, and eventually it was approved, and we built this facility. And after we built the facility, the community again wrote up telling us that they needed medical equipment if we could support again. So the proposal went through the board again, it was analyzed, then it was approved again, and we supplied the medical equipment.
Nyewala Telma is a community health nurse in charge of the newly commissioned CHIPS compound. It will help her and other pregnant women in the community to have easier and quicker antenatal services.
I am really happy for having this facility in Brutu community, and I know it's going to help me a lot because moving from here to the hospital is very far, and getting a means from Brutu here to Nandon Municipal Hospital is very far. So this place being close to me, it will really help me attend my antenatal regularly and prevent further complications in pregnancy.
The commissioning of the CHIPS compound brought relief and smiles on the people, and they showed their appreciation and joy. Reporting for Dre News, Rafik Salam, Brutu, Nandom.
We get into our business update now, starting with a look at the commodity market. In business news, Labour consultant Senyo Ajabing is calling on employers to conduct thorough assessment of candidates' competence before appointing them roles. This, he says, is essential to avoid disputes related to unfair terminations, especially following probation periods. His comments come in response to the Bank of Ghana's recent justification for terminating the appointment of certain individuals recruited after December 7, 2024. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Ajabing emphasized the shared responsibility of both employers and employees in ensuring a smooth recruitment and probation period.
I'm sure that during the induction process, when employees are brought on board, maybe the first few weeks or the first month, they go through induction where they are taught or the policies and procedures and values and structures of the organizations is taught to them, it's told to them. And it is at this point that an employee needs to understand what exactly the employer wants, to understand the role they are supposed to play. And for employers, it is important, really, really important, to check the background of the employee and to assess the competency of the employee properly, so that when you confirm the employee, then exit processes become subject matter of law properly. However, for an employee who takes the probation period for granted. I mean, I've gotten employment, I'm in, and so I can do anything I want. You can become a victim of non-confirmation of employment, and you find yourself out of a job. Assuming you resign from a good job and you come to a better job and then you do not perform and get confirmed, then it disrupts your career plans and your career progression. So for both parties, we will say that they should utilize the probation period properly and ensure that they size themselves up well and take decisions in the interest of the organization. Otherwise, then we have bad employees going through and becoming, confirmed employees, or we have a situation where you don't get the right people. And let's always keep in mind that the recruitment and selection process terminates at the point of confirmation after the probation.
Moving on in business, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, that is GUTA, is calling on governments to consider a 40% local content participation in its Big Push program. The Big Push initiative, it's one of President Mahama's industrial policies, and it seeks to develop infrastructure and maximize investment in the country's manufacturing sector. Remarking to this, President of the GUTA, Dr. Joseph Oppong, stated that Ghana's economy will be dependent on the involvement of indigenes. We'll tell you more.
Ghana, no doubt, is the best in terms of manufacturing in the whole of the world, and that we have to take opportunity to work with them and then understudy them. And that's why we'll appeal to government to find a way that the Chinese manufacturers that are coming are partnered with the locals, even if it is about 40% by law and all that. It will enable us to be able to understudy them, because that's the way to go. We have to enhance on our productivity, and how are we going to do it? Most of the traders, we want to migrate from trading to manufacturing, because we see that is the surest way to go. We cannot continue to be importing the goods whilst we have the capacity to produce here. It will take some of the stress from us and all that. And so coming face to face with investors, the caliber that we've seen here today is very, very important, and government should continue. And then whilst we are talking about this, government should also start creating the space. If you want to industrialize, how do we go about it in the ease? Because ease, time and cost of doing business is what we call the trade facilitation. If you don't have it in the 24-hour economy, then what are we doing? So government should do everything to create the space, create the industrial parks and all that. So those of us in the trading space, when we want to go into manufacturing, we just acquire this industrial park, and there we go.
So let's wrap up the business update with a look at the currency market. And that wraps up the first belt of the news belt on the AM show. Coming up next is AM Sports, anchored by Haruna Mubarak.
Let's do sports now on the AM show with me, Haruna Mubarak. Now, Communications Director of Hearts of Oak, Kwame Opare-Addo, says the club is working around the clock to resolve its issues with New Edibiasi over the $70,000 transfer saga. The Phobians have been handed a transfer ban in relation to the matter after missing the final deadline to comply with the directive from the GFA. Hearts were ordered to pay New Edibiasi $50,000 as the outstanding balance on the transfer of Salim Adams, plus an additional $20,000 representing 40% of the onward transfer fee.
This is an issue that is being resolved, and I can say that when it is eventually resolved, even New Edibiasi themselves will testify to it that it is resolved. So it is an issue that is being resolved. The two parties are in constant touch to make sure that it is fully resolved. It's a decision from the FA, so you must respect it, and then also deal with the club as well. There's constant communication between Hearts of Oak and New Edibiasi. That is why I said that it is being resolved.
Now, President of Rugby Africa and former Asante Kotoko chairman Herbert Mensah has urged the Ghana Football Association to stop talking so much and take firm action against hooliganism. Speaking in Scars of Hooliganism, a Joy Sports documentary that explores the emotional and structural impact of violence in Ghana football, Herbert called out the GFA's inaction in the face of repeated fan misconduct.
FA themselves have got to stop talking so much and do more. Put in the same measures that are put in around the world. The clubs have a sense of responsibility. They have to. And you see abroad where people receive life bans, they go after people, they make sure you've got cameras and things in place to pick things up. And you can say it's expensive, but not really if you look at the budget of the FA, how much money that they generate themselves. You don't wait after the fact to say now you are banned for the rest of the season. Somebody's dead. At some points in time, I wonder whether governments should not start thinking of bringing in a sports czar. Somebody who comes in to clean up the mess. Because there's too much mess. And the mess is unnecessary. Maybe ministers don't get it or not capable of doing it. Then you need a sports czar equipped with law to be able to get in and say, we're starting a fast-track court. We're starting a sports resolution dispute section that like they have in Kenya. So therefore it is you are in a position now to take action against something and get a resolution within 2 weeks. It's not 6 months, it's not 2 years. You can close down things that change things.
Meanwhile, the Director of Sports for the Ghana Police Service, ASP Yakubu Ansamani, has admitted that identifying violent fans in large crowds during football matches remains a major challenge for the security services. However, they remain determined to arrest and prosecute those found culpable.
All concern, and you will also agree with me that our culture of deeply rooted in passionate behavior, especially these fans that are so violent, and they wouldn't change their mind, especially when they are supporting their clubs. And then identifying these violent people in very big crowd, these things pose as a very big challenge for all the security services, especially the stakeholders when it comes to footballing at our stadia. We should all be cautious. Whatever happens at our stadia negatively sends the message all over the world, and it has its consequences.
So those who go and misbehave, what would you do to them when you get them?
You see, like I initially said, they are arrested, sent to court, and they are prosecuted. So if you come to the stadium and misbehave, misconduct, you see, you will definitely go through this legal processes. And nobody, even the club that you are supporting, cannot help you. So we'll plead with all the fans to rather celebrate than to come and cause mayhem or harm a fan or somebody.
Now, Ghana midfielder Abdul Rashid Hussein has disclosed that English side Sheffield United once invited the entire Shooting Stars team for trials thanks to his standout performance during an individual assessment with the club. The Slovenia-based player explained that the invitation came early in his career after he impressed scouts during a trial at the English club.
Yeah, I went to Sheffield United, and my first time I went there, they didn't believe there was talent in Ghana that much. So when I went there and I proved them wrong, and they were happy, and they decided to invite all the Shooting Star players. Yeah, because of me, they invited all the team to come so that they can scout more players. So that was what happened. So from me and them, our agreement, I normally come back Ghana because I was young, and that was the same rules. So I'll come back to Ghana, and then few months time you go back, train with them. So that was how they make it happen, like till you get 18, so that they can find a way to help you.
Just asking about the experience moving from Ghana to Europe. What are some of the difficulties you encountered moving from Ghana there, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, to be honest, Ghana here, mostly we don't take some things serious, especially like having like good stretching and activation before training, you know what I mean? So sometimes our muscles are too tight. So when you get to Europe, you see them doing that before training. So, and if the weather is cold, you start to find it hard because the muscles will be like stiff to get used to it. So that was the challenges. And then some people think like if you just know how to play, that's all. But sometimes you have to learn the tactics of every formation and your position, what you need to do, what you don't need to do. You have to be here and there at the right time. Those things, those little things is needed. And Europe football, when the kids was young in Europe, they are good, they have good facilities to develop the young boys, so they are good in the simple things. So before you get there, you have to master the simple things, your touch, your pass, and those things, those simple things is important there, because they don't train and just start like selection and then play. No, they start with passing, patterns, how he wants you to attack, defend, those kind of things. So whilst you are here, it's good, like to tell other players who are still here, it's good for them to start learning tactics of formations. It will help them.
Welcome back to the AM Show. The AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties, and if you're thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in, I have news for you. Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit in Accra. Invest in our newest development, Willow Lane, where elegance will meet tranquility in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at affordable costs and also with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we also provide 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Give us a call on these numbers, 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit our website at www.waylead.org. It's time for us to review the stories captured in the newspapers. This is the news review segment on the AM Show. And my guests are in studio. I have Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. And we also have Wanda Madilo. He's from the NDC Communications Directorate, and they join me in studio this morning. Gentlemen, welcome aboard the news review segment. You're both new. You're not new, so you know that we give our guests about 2 minutes to walk us through any topical issue they want to reflect on. And Haruna, I haven't seen you in a bit, so I'll start with you.
Last week you was here.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I must have forgotten that. What's on your mind?
For me,
Yeah.
First, I would say good morning to your cherished viewers, yourself, and then Wanda, and whoever is watching us from home. I believe that we are currently sitting on a certain government which does not provide us any direction. A lot of issues that have come up are basically on political persecution, and we need to build a democracy. I believe that our focus should be on building Ghana rather than prosecuting people without merit. If they want to prosecute, I believe that the courts are open. We should stop the media persecution and go to the courtroom.
Okay, so you believe we are sitting on a settings government. Wanda Madilo, are you going to piggyback from there, or you have a different reflection for us?
A different impression altogether, and he knows that very well.
Okay.
First of all, we want to celebrate our founder, His Excellency, may his soul rest in peace, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. He stood for some values, some of which values we are espousing today. Probity, accountability is one of the key cardinal principles that the NDC won't do away with. And we stand very firm on that. So if that comes in the wake of prosecutions, giving account for your service in office, we so much love it, and we want to encourage the MPP to keep thinking along those lines, because this is exactly what will happen. Nobody is persecuting anybody. If you have any case, go to court and answer your case. Nobody has hounded anybody. They've done worse in the past. We won't go along that line. But we do believe that as a party like the NDC, founded on the principles of probity and accountability, these are things Ghanaians need to know and must hear.
Okay. I just want to probe a little further, Haruna. When you say settings government, what exactly do you mean?
A government that does not believe in itself. A government
does not believe in itself?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a president who was running when he was asked, "Are you the hope for the people of Ghana?" He said he didn't believe he was the hope.
Is that not just him being modest?
Oh, it's not about being modest. You see, a government that tells you that we have a very large follow in terms of government appointees, and that it is bringing so much expenditure on the people of Ghana. And you say you are coming with a very less government. You come with it. That large government was spending around 326 million Ghana cedis for an annual budget for the government office of the government machinery. You come in, you are spending 2.7 billion. This is not a settings government. 2.7 billion. Put 326 million into 2.7 billion. That means that Akufo-Addo would have used it for 2-3 years. Okay. One budget for 1 year. So even though the settings government, a government that tells you that gives you a navigator that is going left, then by the time you realize it's going right.
All right.
It certainly is not a government.
All right. I just wanted to understand what you mean.
I'm very happy that my brother is talking about probity and accountability. I believe that President Rawlings is somebody that you can run away from, because he's the person that has used his own blood to form the NDC. If he's going to be celebrated, I think that he should be celebrated with genuineness, because in the past, members who are serving in government, they called him a barking dog. He himself have said about the current president that he doesn't believe in his credentials in terms of probity and accountability, that he has failed that test. So today, we are going to celebrate him. We should celebrate him with genuineness. And that is what, because he's a hero. He's the only founder, because we in the MPP, we don't have a founder. We have founders, or we have foundation members. He's the only founder of the NDC, and I believe that he should be celebrated creditably.
All right. So, gentlemen, let's get into the newspapers. I want to start with you. I have only one paper here. So, Wanda, perhaps let's start with your papers.
I think I need to correct an impression. Sometimes we should stop talking without figures. In 2024, the total allocations to the Office of Government Machinery was 2.1 billion. Check it out. That was he should look at his own budget. Why are you trying to pretend about this?
Wonder, I am very confident in this road.
And in this current, dispensation, we budgeted 2.7 billion. What is all this? Where do we get all this from? Where do we get all these figures to excite ourselves?
What figure did you give in the beginning?
2.7 for Office of Government Machinery.
Yes, Office of Government Machinery.
And Akufo-Addo Office of Government Machinery alone was 326. Check it.
You won't understand the operations of government.
Why would I understand? I've worked for public service for 20 years. You're telling me.
It's actually quite early.
Yes.
It's just the second hour into the AM show. Let's get into the papers. I'm sure the stories in there will give us plenty room to compare what we're doing.
Budget.
Yes,
get 2024 budget. Get 2025 budget. No, not you. She's an independent person. Go to the appendices and check government machinery.
Are you serious?
Check Akufo-Addo and check.
Haruna, can you guys wake up quickly?
Not wake up.
Wanda and Haruna.
Please. You cannot.
Gentlemen.
You cannot
wake up.
Okay, since I'll start then.
6 months in office.
It's very early.
The government 6 months in office. 6 months in office. We have not even spent that money yet. This is allocation. And then you have misbehaving over this matter. Are you serious?
And besides,
how do we compare this?
Our audience can't even follow the arguments you're putting.
Besides, that 2.7 billion is even from March thereabouts.
Can we make progress?
3 months is over.
But they are in shock.
Our audience tune in this morning to listen to you. So let's them listen to you. Since you're not ready, I'll start with the Daily Graphic. These are the stories on the front page. On the flag bearer primary, NPP MPs must remain neutral. That is according to Minority Leader and Che Mensa Bonsu. Arthur Kennedy shares views. That is, post your primaries in January 2026. They're asking you to be neutral. So let me just go through the stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic. Goil PLC posts 84.7 million Ghana cedis profit. Quash order to restore Ni Adamalache II, Ni Takichu, edges Supreme Court. Guaranteed Trust Bank changes logo, and GTech scrutinizes honorary doctorate titles. I want to start from here because it's been a very topical issue, the flag bearer race for the New Patriotic Party, and thankfully Haruna is here, can shed some more light on this. So the Minority Leader, Alexander Penyumakin, has advised members of the New Patriotic Party, the caucus in Parliament, to remain neutral to foster a sense of unity among the rank and file after the party's post-flag bearer elections on January 31st, 2026. And he said as members of Parliament, they were supposed to toe the middle ground, hold the party together, and not take sides openly. But I think that's what we're seeing now. We've heard about a little over 60 MPs who are rallying behind Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We also heard that some MMDCs, I think the same number of former MMDCs who visited Kennedy Japan are the same people who yesterday met Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia at Alisa Hotel. So what do you make of this call from your Minority Leader, your leader in Parliament, and what we are seeing right now? How do you reconcile everything? But answer for me, is it the same people? Is it the same group of former MMDCs who met Kennedy Japan, who met Bawumia yesterday?
In actual fact, I have not participated in any of those meetings. And I can't verify whether they were the same people. But if there is former MMDCs, there should be one, because former is former, whether from 2000 up to date or from any other date. So since I am not, or I did not participate, I can't confirm whether they were the same people.
All right. So Alexander Penyumakin is saying that let's be neutral, or the members of Parliament should be neutral, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening right now.
Well, I haven't read or heard him. You've posted this particular headline to me, and I believe that as a leader, this is the manner in which he's going to speak. For me, I have said it time and again, that neutrality with a custom vote is always compromise. If you have a custom vote, you cannot be neutral. But if you are a leader and you are involved in the processes of conducting such elections, what you need to do is to be very fair. You have to be fair. All the procedures, all information, all materials, that requires of every contestant, you must be fair and firm so that you would have free and fair elections. And that is why when you check the slogans of electoral commissions across the world, you would not hear the word neutral. You will hear free, fair. And that has been the holding mark of every leader. I will join the cause to call on all of them to exercise restraint and be minded that the party have a guiding principle in terms of how elections are conducted. Very soon, the party will issue a statement to open nominations, and at that point in time, people will be at the liberty to do political campaigning. We are not stopping anybody from having an ambition, but we are reminding them that it is too early in the days. Both sides, or all the sizes, is too early in the days. They need to respect the decisions of the party. And there will be some meetings between now and then, and if care is not taken, we will crack the whip.
What is the actual date for the opening of nominations?
That will be communicated after conference.
Okay. Are you making headway? I've listened to some members of your party say the reason behind, or the intention behind the early primaries is so you can unite the party behind one leader 2 clear years before we go to the polls in 2028. Now that you are saying you're going to be opening nominations, so many calls to be unified, you know, are you making headway in terms of reuniting the party the way we've seen it scattered all over the place? Case in point, thank you tour, so many things coming up.
Yes, you see, because we are running a political organization, you cannot run with one set of opinion. Many people, everybody, we have various sets of opinions from rank and file of the party. We are making a headway because the highest making decision body of the party, the second highest, which is cloned with the power, has taken a decision. The decision was not taken in a vacuum. The decision was taken based on a fact-finding committee that was set up by National Council on the 2nd of January 2025, based on another consultative committee which was put together for constitutional amendment, which has also consulted all persons who are interested at the time of the formation for the conduct or to become flag bearer of the party has been consulted. We went to council, one motion was moved, and we all agreed to have our presidential primaries done early enough. Yes, several reasons has been given, and I believe that there are very cogent reasons that will be able to sustain the entire process. And, you know, if we're able to get this thing done, and all the stories that you are hearing about people going here, making declarations and doing, there would not be a contest of presidential elections again. And it will help to de-escalate the entire process. The rancor, the animosity, and all that will stop because there will be a leader, and also the rallying point for the party will be around the leader. Okay. To give the leader the opportunity to be able to put his ideas together, and also we'll be able to, we'll have about 3 years to be able to heal within the process. You cannot run away from that. Every political party cannot run such elections without passing through a healing process. Okay. It's just like when water runs through the forest. I believe that some of the trees will definitely come down, and that is how it works. It's a natural process, and I believe that it's working towards that.
Wanda, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Apenyo Makin is saying he's using himself as an example. That is why he's not openly supporting any particular aspirant. He wants to keep good faith with all the aspirants, and he's urging his party members, especially the members of parliament, to remain neutral so they can hold the ground together. I want to make 2 comments. Yeah. Number one, the MPP as a party does not trust their majority leaders' position on the matter. Do you have evidence to back this claim? I would. Haruna is here. He'll take you on. I'll put it out. Okay. It's not a problem at all.
He's my friend.
Number 2, the grassroots of the party do not also trust their leadership in terms of this whole flag bearership issue. His boss, on January 24th, in Asempa Studios, made a very categorical point that they should give Bawumia another chance to contest the 2028 elections.
No.
Oh, it's there.
Please play it.
Asempa is public record. Check it out. I can give it to you.
You know, I don't do this.
What did he say then? No, then what did he say?
My boss has never, on any occasion. Salam. My boss has. Oh, this is Haruna. This is a headline. Play the tape.
Please,
did you hear him? Did you hear those words?
That's what I'm saying.
This is Joy FM.
My boss
okay, hold on.
is very professional.
Wonder, are you quoting him verbatim or you're paraphrasing?
So
perhaps if you're
paraphrasing on your own portal.
Yeah, but I'm asking. But this is a headline you have read, and I'm asking.
You go ahead and do it yourself. I shouldn't even be done providing evidence.
I can't play this on air while we are having this conversation.
Let me make progress. I'm talking based on what I have seen on your own portal, and we are on the same platform. So if you have any dispute, you have. Organize it, or you have.
It's not the same. This is multimedia. This is a multimedia story, but we are on Joy.
That's fine. The back room will check for us. Go on. Yeah.
So, we have seen commentaries in the past from some of these leaders that suggest that they want a Bawumia candidacy. No two ways about that. Even Afenyo Maki himself, in the last election, supported Kennedy Oppong. Is that not the case? Now, you have a particular crop of leaders.
But you know, there's another angle you left out. Before this open declaration of support, before the polls even announced that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was, had more goodwill than some other aspirants, there was Sarah Asafo, who made some allegations about how the MPP wanted to sacrifice Bawumia as the one who, is the reason why they lost the election.
I am getting there. So don't worry, I'm getting there.
I mean, once you're opening up the angle, let's add everything.
I'm getting there. Then you fast forward this whole discourse. You will observe that the current crop of executives were elected through their own processes of, first of all, polling stations, then they go to the constituency, and then they go to the regions, go to national, and then the new national executives, including their national council, takes a decision on when they should elect their flag bearer. I think that is fair amongst all of us, even the NDC. That's what we all do. The reason you do that is that you want the base, the grassroots, to be akin or to have some affinity towards what you are doing, participate in the process. We also use this as a tool to energize the base and to get your base ready for what is going to happen. Number 3, you want a public approval, that is a grassroots approval of your candidates. So you want to go through all that trend. Now, all of a sudden, we have a political party in the name of the MPP that actually commissioned a body to go and discuss how they lost the elections, what made them lose the elections and all that. And Professor Michael report, they claim nobody has the report, only they have the report. Suffice to say that they say that the report says early Congress. Did the report also say that they should reinvent the wheel? Because early Congress means nothing. It only means that you can fast-track the process. We have lost elections in 2016, and we had the Professor Botche committee doing his job. Even after Professor Botche's committee did his job, we still went through the process. So it is not a guarantee that because your committee, which was put together again by this same leadership, to go and find something out, the committee comes back, and then all of a sudden, the Professor Michael Kwe report says that you should reinvent the wheel, go contrary to your own constitution. They are now here to go to Congress in July.
For what I understand, they're not actually doing anything contrary to the Constitution. This is convention. The bottom-up approach is not... Haruna, does your Constitution say that you must necessarily elect... that what you're doing right now is wrong?
There's nothing in the Constitution.
Because we had this conversation,
Look, every election that happens on the validity of persons who are capable of running the election at that point in time.
So does the Constitution specifically say that? No, okay, then that's that.
And even the presidential election, presidential primaries is a stand-alone election from even the structure of the party.
Okay. So you see, it's very easy to read the Constitution and just take out the letters and think that you're on a course. Now, how do I elect a flag bearer when I don't have those behind? What is the legitimacy of the current crop of executives, including, because their tenure expires within a period, 4 years expiration. So you are taking executives to Congress whose tenure have expired. That's what it means. Number 2, these are the same group of people who elected a leader that got some 39, 41% in the elections. You still want to go with this? And no doubt, we are not the only ones talking. Their own people are talking. Kennedy Oppong has spoken, Jaku has spoken, and I'm sure many others will be speaking, in the light of it, including some members of the MPP. So if for nothing at all, listen to the voice of reason. Listen to the opinions of people. Listen to what is happening. Do you want to go along a line that, eventually you elect a leader again and you are dealing with these same factions and fractions within your party? That is why you take your time. We even did a healing tour. We even had to go constituency by constituency and speak to people and get them to understand that, hey, listen, we know we failed. We know we haven't done well. But this is the way forward. How do we do it? Then we go through the process again. You can still do an early Congress by rushing through your process of electing your constituency, region, and national. There's nothing wrong. You can still do that within the same period.
But
why didn't this same recommendation say that fast track the process of electing your, background before the national elections?
They are saying that the center cannot hold. Things fall apart. Chinua Achebe. They need to unite the party behind a flag bearer.
No.
And while you went on a healing tour and the rest, that was your strategy, right? To regroup.
So
their strategy is to make sure the center holds before they can go to...
This is the same center that is about to produce the candidate who failed in the last election. The same center. If it is weak, disorganize it and let's form a new center. Because the center is obviously not the candidate. They've had a party in opposition for all this while. They've been running their affairs for all this while. It's only that their constitution says that when they have a sitting president, then he becomes the leader of the party. But if they don't have a sitting president, I don't think that is the case.
Okay.
So
that's your submission. Yeah.
When there's a sitting president, he's not the leader of the party.
Okay. But
if there's a flag bearer, he's not the leader of the party.
Okay.
Our constitution is clear. The leader of the party at any point in time is the national chairman.
Yeah.
And that is why the Constitutional Review Committee has asked that it should be affirmed and mentioned specific. So it is not true.
Haruna, some believe that this strategy, let me add one angle. Some believe that this strategy is so that you can keep the current executives in position. And if you go by the normal convention, there might be succession battles. They might not be able to come back into power.
Abuchi, first of all, what I want you to know is that he's mentioned about people's tenure of office has expired and you are going to use them. That is untrue. The polling station executives, their tenure of office will expire somewhere March.
National executives?
Yes, national executives will expire somewhere July 2026. Yes. Okay? So using the delegate list at a time of 31st January does not amount to using an expired tenure of office of members of the party who are eligible to elect. So please, you see, this is our matter. If you are not very conversant with it, if you are not very conversant with it...
Actually, that's a good point.
Yes,
he says that's their matter.
Yes,
you are not part of the new
If you are not very conversant, no, you can talk to it, but if you are not very conversant with it, yes, so you don't.
No, you have a point. So, Wanda, he has a point. He says that these are internal matters. No, of course we have to discuss.
So if NDC in government is...
No, he's giving a comment.
You should be very, like, if you
have come to a point where you want to shut public opinion.
No. What are you
talking about? Because we are not members of your party, we can't talk to it.
No, that's not what he said.
Listen, any violence in the MPP today, any chaos in the MPP today, ripples over to the country. Of
course.
And all the members of the MPP are members of this country, or citizens of this country.
Absolutely.
So if there's something that is a potential chaos,
let me get a word in.
And Ghanaians are pointing it out to you.
He said, if you are not, he gave a caveat. He didn't say that don't speak about it. He said, if you are not conversant.
What is there to be conversant with?
Their constitution, for example.
Is it the case that the current crop of executives were elected at a certain point in time and therefore produce the former leadership? Is it the case that by precedence, since they were formed in 1992 till today, the precedence has been that go according to from the bottom to the top? Is that the case? Is it the case that they have lost elections while in power before and never went to this kind of thing? Is it the case that the current crop of executives have produced a leader who failed in the last elections? Are these things that I think somebody will tell you that are not convincing?
Let me ask you this. Your party is in government. It's in government now. What they are doing, selecting or electing a flag bearer 2 clear years before election 2028, does it in any way distract your government, or does it cause any sort of distraction to your administration in any way?
It doesn't, because that's how Constitution says. It's 2 years. Okay. Within 2 years before elections, you can organize your party.
So be that as it may, all concerns raised, they have that right to do it however they please, because it could be their strategy to win back power.
Hold on,
and let's end it there.
See, we don't mind how the MPP organize themselves. But this is democracy. And people have a say. Yes. You asked me a question.
Okay.
I am talking about the MPP in what they are doing right now.
Okay.
At least I have the clear mind and the conscience to know that what is in their constitution is not what they are practicing.
All right.
That is why they claim that they are going to Congress on the conference on the 31st of July in order to ratify this decision. So this decision is alien to their constitution, and they know that for a fact.
Is that why you're going to ratify this decision?
It's a complete falsehood.
That
we are going to ratify. City, Take the Constitution.
Wonder, pass it
Take the
on
Constitution.
Go ahead.
You see, Wonder, when I say that you can speak about MPP matters, but you must be seized with the right information.
Go ahead.
Because you see, when we sit
I'm
here,
listening.
when
Yes,
we
go
sit
ahead.
here, we don't speak to him, her. We don't speak to her. We are not speaking to the cameraman.
Yes.
We are speaking to the good people of Ghana.
Good.
There are people who are more intelligent than us, sitting here. So we must provide them with the right breakfast. And that is why I am telling you. First, the Constitution you are talking about never tells us that we should organize this election before this election. That is untrue. Two, conference has no power to vary this decision. Read Article 13.1. Sweetie, I want you to read it clear and see. It's a shall. It is not about conference to come and ratify it. It's a decision.
What are you doing?
Actually, Dr. Kennedy had the same view that he had the same view that the National Delegates Congress could actually nullify this decision.
It cannot. It cannot. I am telling you, read that. It's a shout. Please. I've been there.
Well, it says the election of the party's presidential candidates shall be held not later than 24 months, that's 2 years, from the date of the national election. And the date and venue for the election shall be decided by the National Council.
By the National Council.
Provided, however, that the National Council may, on appropriate occasion, vary the date.
Yes.
So that's that. I want us to move on from this. So quickly, wrap up your thoughts on this for me and let's move on.
You see it clearly. It is only the National Council that can decide the date and venue for presidential primaries. It doesn't even go to conference. I'm the conference secretary as I sit here. I am the conference secretary. There is nowhere in the MPP constitution, nowhere, that you have to organize polling station before you get. The presidential primaries is a stand-alone election. It is not. Even if you go to Article 5 of the party's constitution, you would not see anywhere that the presidential candidate or presidential primaries is also part of the structures of the party. You see, if you are saying this and you want to be very accurate, you lost an election in 2016, which was a very historic loss until our loss in 2024. You went ahead to speak to the issue. You went ahead to elect that person again as general secretary, came and elected the person again as national chairman, and then you came to win an election. And you are talking about people who have elected a weak or failed leader.
Let's hear. That's for you.
Sometimes when you play too much with mischief, we have to cure it on this program. Now, their own constitution, Article 10, Article 10.2, it says that there shall be a national annual delegate conference, which shall be the supreme governing body of the party.
But who says
now listen, I go to number 3. Number 3 says that there shall be a national council which is subject to the decisions of the National Delegate Conference. What are you talking about?
Don't read that in isolation. Don't read that in isolation.
So the Delegate Conference takes preeminence over whatever National Council.
That particular provision in question.
Please.
That particular provision in question.
Hand it over.
My brother, please. This constitution, nobody, I'm telling you, please, my brother, even your party, have you ever seen an NDC party constitution before?
You know that.
Have you ever seen their constitution?
Do you know that they are saying that? Hold on a second. On strengthening our democracy, Yakosa has been making some statements. He says no one really knows how much a candidate spends. No one knows where the money is sourced. No one seems bound by any enforced laws to make all of this transparent. The opacity is the source of all evil in a Santa Claus democracy, for it becomes the surest corridor to money laundering and political pay-through, he said. And he's talking about strengthening our democracy and how we can make campaign financing transparent. It's another angle to our political conversation this morning. So let's move on from the NPP's flag bearership race and get here. Truthfully, we don't have clear laws that are enforced in terms of political campaign financing. And you are, getting ready to go into another election, although within your own party. How do you respond to these concerns about making campaign financing transparent? Is it a case that we don't have the laws or we just don't enforce them? Is it a case that there are some lacuna, there are some gaps in the ones that we already have? Where do you sit in all this?
Okay, thank you, Sweetie. With my point, with clarity, that's 13.1. is a provision that is entrenched.
Yes,
that conference does not have the power to overturn that. It's an entrenched provision.
Where is it?
It's a shall. It's not a may.
Oh, are you really?
So please.
Don't talk to me about constitutional provisions, please.
My brother, no. you are not an overlord of knowledge.
It's obvious.
My brother, you are not an overlord of knowledge.
Let's talk about political campaign financing.
My brother, you are very lame on this constitution.
We can read for, I
am telling you
that the higher decision-making body is the conference, not your national council.
Please. Who says the highest decision body is not conference? I am telling you on this decision.
Can we be respectful to our audience this morning, gentlemen? When we do this, they don't get the best out of us.
In every constitution, there are checks and balances.
Wonder.
The constitution envisages that there will be a day that council may take a decision that may not be in consonance with the constitution, and therefore there's a check and balance. And the check and balance is that there's a higher body that can review that decision. What is it talking to us about?
On this decision, it is not reviewable by anybody.
Not to go and
conference is the highest.
Talk to your lawyer.
So they're saying that
you are not correct on that. Please.
Gentlemen, you said you are friends. Okay, I'll come back to you. So let me tell you about what Yakosa has been saying. And in fact,
I'm disappointed. Please take
your microphones are off. So he says that corporate executive and governance thinker Yao Nkosa has called for urgent reform of political campaign financing to safeguard the country's democracy from elite capture and systemic corruption. Can we turn on your mics now? Let's be respectful. Wonder, let me do this. Hold on a second. So Wonder, he is Deputy National Secretary. Hold on. Listen to me.
You should read from
Listen to me.
He has in that constitution that says that the decision of
it's like both of you are refusing to listen to the referee.
Particular decision
you will not.
Is not overturnable by anybody. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. My brother, please.
Wonder.
Well, I'll allow him to.
Do you want us to continue this?
Ignorance. Just continue. You go ahead.
You have to.
You do realize that our audience are the judge of whatever we are talking about here, right?
I will not allow him to deceive Ghanaians.
Okay.
It's open.
Okay. So you have made your point. Our discerning audience have heard you.
So you should go ahead.
Good.
Go ahead.
Wonder. Haruna, our discerning audience have heard you as well. So can we just continue this conversation?
Ignorant on the constitution.
Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to move away from the politics and let's do some human interest stories. I'll come back to the politics. They're saying there's sufficient fuel to last beyond 2 months. Unfortunately, this also tips into politics, but let's discuss it. So there is sufficient fuel to last beyond 2 months. That is the NPA CEO assuring the country. And the country has sufficient fuel reserves to last beyond 2 months. That's the acting CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, Godwin Eduji Tamaklu. And he said currently there were over 200 million litres of petrol and 150 million litres of diesel available. Quote, I can assure the good people of Ghana that we have enough stock to last us beyond 2 months. And with all efforts, we are confident that we will not have any problem with supply disruption at all. Of course, this is coming on the back of the Israel-Iran war and what we are seeing right now. Yesterday, the Iranians struck, some US base in Qatar, and some are saying that it was choreographed. In fact, I've also seen President Trump's tweet saying that they got it out of their system. It sounded like the Iranians informed them that they were going to strike or they were going to respond to that attack, and they did. But it appears we are kind of seeing the end of the violence of the war. I'm not sure, but because it concerns us, because we import refined fuel, because our petroleum industry is more import-driven than export, they are assuring us that there's no cause to be concerned. We have about more than 2 months stock left. Let's take your thoughts on this matter. Wanda, let me start with you.
Yeah, so...
does this assurance assure you?
Yes. Yeah. I am a lover of foreign news. So the whole of last night, I spent some time on CNN. As at midnight, price of Brent crude had dropped by some 8%. WTI crude also dropped by some 8% as well, selling at 67.4 and 70.28 per barrel. Many people thought that the Israel-Iraqi Iran conflict may escalate, But I think that the intervention of the U.S., howbeit it's a bit harsh, have brought some sanity. I'm told that there's also a peace deal already in place. Iran has accepted some, proposals. Israel has also accepted some proposals, and so that immediately, the crude oil market or the oil market is a very sensitive, speculative-based pricing environment. So we saw a slight edge the day before. By yesterday, when things had died down, it was fine. Donald Trump was not trying to say that they were informed or anything of the sort. What happened was that the Iran targeted, attack was on a U.S. base in
Qatar.
And per international law, you cannot abuse the sovereignty of another state, at least without their knowledge. And even though that property was not owned by Qatar, they needed to inform Qatar that we were going to launch some missiles over your space. And so they don't see it as an attack on the country, but an attack on, as it were, an entity that belongs to the US.
So this is President Trump's tweet. And I'm quoting the part where he says, most importantly, they've gotten it out of their system. And he says, hold on, I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. He said they gave them notice.
So I'm saying that Iran actually gave notice to Qatar. Qatar hosting the property of the U.S., which is the command of the U.S. So once the sovereignty has been informed, obviously U.S. has a representative and an ambassador who will be informed that, hey, Charlie, this is it. And so take it easy. But whatever it is, this is international diplomacy. And I think that I want to personally be grateful to God that this has come to an end very quickly, because it had all the symptoms of a Third World War. It had all the symptoms of markets going haywire. And then when Iran actually threatened to close the Hormuz Canal, or
Strait of Hormuz,
I think that was a very difficult decision if it came to pass. And we would have seen prices skyrocket, because Iran supplies about 20% or so of the entire world consumption of crude and all that. So indeed, we are very excited, very happy that this has quickly, died off. I just pray that the parties within the space will be able to align quickly to the peace agreement and we can make progress. Lives have been lost. I know in excess of about 300 lives lost in Iran, some 30 or 40 or so lost in Israel and all that. And properties, several properties have been damaged and all that. I think this matter can come to an end quickly. On the issue of the MPA boss talking, it has to do with our reserves. Normally when these things happen, because of the shock, ships cannot move. And so you cannot get supply into your country, and that it creates shortage. And the shortage is the reason for which prices go up. What he's trying to say that in envisaging this, last week, you heard the president himself say that he has tasked the finance minister and the energy minister to work out modalities within which we can operate so that this doesn't have an impact. So based on that, quickly some orders were made, and we have strategic stock reserve. If the law wash will even last for the next 2 months, government is saying that we have enough stock to sustain the country, our power plants and all that. So it's a good welcome call, and we're excited.
I mean, even tied to this, the International Energy Agency also said they have billions of stock, of fuel. So this would not have disrupted anything necessarily. So there was no need to panic.
It was not the supply that was going to disrupt the market. It was the transportation. Normally, when there are wars, it's not as though they are not, digging up food. They are, but it's the transportation. And the U.S. themselves, they have a lot of reserves. So they were willing to release and all that. But again, you will see a slight, shock, because people hedge. People use crude oil prices to hedge. Even in this one, people had to bet. I heard somebody won about $10 billion overnight because he betted that there's no way the war will extend beyond 12 days. And it did happen. And so it's a very volatile market when it comes to speculation and all that. And we're excited and happy.
Haruna, are you convinced? I mean, yesterday, a few days ago, I was telling myself, I pray we don't get back to where we were. It almost looks like we were starting to see some gains, some economic recovery in 2020, thereabouts, then COVID, Russia-Ukraine war, and then we went into that, tailspin, So I was hoping that it doesn't get here again. What do you say to this assurances coming in about no, I mean, we have sufficient fuel to last beyond 2 months?
Sweetie, for the respect I have for your viewers,
yeah.
You did ask an earlier question, which demanded a very concrete answer with respect to political financing. My viewpoint on that is that the laws that is governing our political environment has been outlawed. It has uplifted its usefulness. What we have to do is to amend the Political Parties Act to allow political parties to do business. When political parties are allowed to do businesses and own businesses, they will be able to earn certain kind of money that will be able to shore up their balance sheets and to be able to support political activities. We can't continue to be going around and looking at ways of which government should look for funding to support, because we have had this debate severally, and I think that we need to relook at the Political Parties Act, which will give power and authority to political parties to do lawful businesses that will be able to support the running of political parties in Ghana. On the platform of whether I agree or I believe, I cannot believe what the MPA boss is telling me, because I will dwell so much on the local discussion rather than going into the war activities. I have been somebody who has suffered from war before, so I don't like speaking about war. It's very terrifying.
Where?
When I was young in the north, we've had very unfortunate conflicts that has affected our education and our upbringing. So I don't like war, not even a minute. So I pray that God should prevail in these particular circumstances so that the war between these countries will stop, so that lives will be sustained, so that we can all contribute to the development of the world. If you listen to our brothers in the NDC, with respect to what the MPA boss has said, when they took over power, you heard what the power minister had told us, the energy minister has told us, with that we have, was it 3 hours or is it, how many hours did he say?
I think 2 point something, yeah.
Yes, but eventually,
days.
Eventually that it came to pass and nothing had happened. There has been back and forth of that particular information before a house of record. So certainly these people are not ready to give us the right feed. If they tell you that there is enough fuel, it means that there is something wrong, so you should get ready. So plan yourself, because they told us that power will be there, and when they came, look at what is happening. With all the difficulties that we are going through, the MPP kept the power on. Businesses were thriving, people were operating, and people were very confident in the lightning system of the state, even with all the difficulties. Again, there is an exposure on a very huge hypocrisy. When there was Ukraine and what have you, and we're talking
Russia.
about it, people did not believe. They went out way here, and they were saying all manner of things. You could not comprehend them, because there is global crisis, and the supply chain will be affected, whichever state it is. And with that said so, that is affecting the income levels and the revenues that will come. So definitely this is something that we should all be worried about. But this is exposing the incoherence and inconsistencies in people's way of thinking and people's ways of analysis in terms when there is such global crisis.
You're saying
so for
because
me, you only trust the NDC at your own bearer. Once they say there's enough fuel, it means that there's a problem with the fuel. So whoever has a car, fill your tank. If you have, buy some reserve and put it down. Because he's indirectly telling you that there's a problem ahead.
What you're doing may fall under, instigating unnecessary crisis.
You see,
because this is an official statement, an authority figure. Yes. And you are saying that because they told us that there was shortage of fuel and they were able to manage it so that we didn't feel the impact of that shortage. And so many other things that they've said that maybe they steered well, so we didn't feel the impact of it. That's giving you reason to doubt the statement that they're making right now.
The same ministers, his minister, when he talked about the less hours of power and the inconsistency in there, was the same parliament. The inconsistency in the report is the same parliament. So for me, I cannot believe. If I see an NDC man gives a trafficator on the left, please, I will go on the right, because I believe that he will crush me. I have to make sure, I have to be very careful with the kind of information I take from them. It is about being consistent and to be trusted. Trust is very key. And that is why I gave an example some time ago, that if you throw a child up and the child smiles whilst coming down, it's a trust. If the child doesn't trust that you hold him or her, the child will start crying. So if the NDC will be able to win our trust, to let us trust whatever they say, then they must walk the talk.
Wanda, looks like they've lost trust in your administration's official statement.
Their own supporters have lost trust.
And they're saying trust once broken is really difficult to rebuild.
We have.
So how are you going to rebuild trust, if not for the entire Ghanaian population, at least for Haruna, so that next time he hears in your official statement from your administration, he can believe you?
They have come to that position at the NPP because they've lost trust in themselves. Their supporters have lost trust in them also. They want to vent some of this spleen.
Oh, but he's saying he's lost trust in you. Why are you turning it around on him?
What is there to trust in the
But he gave you a valid point. We were told, I think on 2 different occasions, we were told about shortage of fuel. Yet we didn't feel the impact of it.
Nobody told you about shortage of fuel. What we said was that we didn't have enough reserves. How is that shortage of fuel?
No, fuel to power thermal plants. I'm talking about energy, electricity.
And I'm saying that we didn't have enough to do it.
But that's what they said.
Was the power off? Or did the light go off?
But that's what he's saying.
Now, you remember when we
lost
took
my
off,
five TV sets.
The reason for which power outages happen is not only because of lack of fuel. We have to make that point.
Yes.
There are many reasons. In fact, illegal connection can even be the reason for which your power can go off. So don't sit in the studio and say that because your power went off, then there was fuel shortage. Do you know what fuel shortage means? That the whole plant is shut down. That is producing about 1,000 kilowatts of power or 500 kilowatts of power is shut down.
That can also be semantic. Fuel shortage can also mean we don't have money to buy the fuel.
That's not what the minister communicated. Okay. What the minister said was that we do not have enough reserve, and that the reserve we have was only available to last us a few hours. And that is one of the reasons why they had to go and do an emergency arrangement with Nigeria. You remember the president has to leave the country for that. You remember it was the reason why we appointed finance, energy, and roads as quickly as possible, so that these things are taken care of. In fact, the president has to make a special request to Parliament to fast track their vetting so that they can get to work quickly. Yeah. So when you sit in studio and you say this, it's as though nobody else is listening. You are not the only one in this country. The MPP is not the only one. In fact, they cannot even be the standard by which this country is measured. If it is the MPP that is the standard, then we are failed. The inflation should be in 54% again. Then we should be doing exchange rate, dollar to cedi at 17 Ghana cedis, 18 Ghana cedis again. We are not going to go there. They are not the standard in government. They have proven that in government, they were very, very clueless about this economy. So much ado about nothing. You can rant all you can. The law is the law.
Okay. One last story from me, and I'll come to you, gentlemen. UHONU cannot afford to disappoint. Some of the major problems that have bedeviled the Ghana Police Service have been patronage, favoritism, and political interference. I think this is a thought piece, opinion piece, about the IGP who cannot disappoint. So let me find one last story here. And there was a story about the sports minister. Yeah, we'll get into it. About, Here we go. So Ghana to integrate yoga into school sports. And that is the Minister of Youth and Sports, Kofi Adams. And he's announced plans to collaborate with the Ghana Education Service to introduce yoga as a formal component of extracurricular and sports activities in schools across the country. I think this is good news. I think that because I'm familiar with yoga, I know that it's actually going to help these students. Quick thoughts on this, and then we'll get into the Ghanaian Times.
While I agree with the minister, I think that they should add other commercially viable sports like swimming. Fantastic idea. Beyond even the yoga being an exercise.
Swimming is actually part of curriculum for some private schools already.
Yeah, but he's talking about the public schools.
Yeah,
so
you're making it.
Get into it. Table tennis, get back into it. Long tennis, get back to it. Badminton, get back into it. So I think that, yes, we can have a more holistic approach to some of these things, because not everybody will prefer yoga. I may not like it. You may not like it. Another may like it. Somebody else's skill may be in swimming or in badminton or in tennis and all that. So let's find a way, like we used to have in the past, where every secondary school had their own farms and all that. We can still do this in a micro level all the schools having some of these little facilities in order to help the young people to develop. Because there are many talents out there that are wasting, only because we have made a structure that when you go to school, then you have to go to university, and that is it. No skill attached, no other, use of our other extracurricular life and all that. So indeed, I support it, but I think the minister should expand it and include swimming. And I'm very passionate about that.
To that, I say it's not every sports activity that has to be commercially viable. Yoga, for example, is for you. At that level, we are talking about child development. You're talking about how you can meditate, how you can breathe deeply into your, various parts of your joints and all.
Without money?
It will help you learn. It will help you.
All that without money. So give them a skill that will give them.
Well, we have the other ones that will bring you money. This one is for you.
You know how
that's
much
what
the tennis world record holders are making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aruna.
For me, yoga is one thing that I never liked even when I was in India. Every morning, and there were exercise times that I had never participated in doing of yoga for the period that I've stayed there in school. So for me, I think that the minister can recommend, because there are people who will be interested to go through. And I think that exercises in schools, even with sports activities, are demand-driven. People who have the talent and skill will opt to go in for those parts. I can remember my daughter telling me that she wants to throw shot puts. And then I advised her, I told her that she should look at it very carefully. If she thinks that that is an activity that she has to do, then why not? She can go ahead, but she must not compromise her studies with those particular sporting activities. I think that the minister should be looking at avenues of which we need to build talent that will lead to award-winning medals. Because that is what will make a nation, the number of medals that you win and what have you. So we must try as much as possible to build that from the base. And the minister should be focusing on identifying talent and be able to focus on certain, even if we have to niche on certain activities, that we need to be able to let the entire world know, to showcase the Ghanaian sporting activity, so that at least we can also work out to come back on the football scale, because Ghana has always been known on the football scale. Anywhere you go, and you mention Ghana, they say Abede Pele. Those are the things they identify you with. Let's continue to build on those particular successes and add certain talent that will also propel Ghana on a larger scale.
It's good both of you are agreeing on one thing this morning, but let me quote something that the sports minister said. He said, yoga has existed for more than 5,000 years, and its enduring relevance and transformative power have helped cure many non-communicable diseases. I think it just buttresses my point that it is not about something commercially viable. It's about you training or ensuring that these students are, well and whole. Yoga sounds fancy. We're talking about stretching. That's it. It's just about stretching your arms and your legs.
We agree with you.
Okay.
We are only saying that there are other sporting activities.
Not everyone is sporty. Not everyone is sport oriented.
But that's why we said there are other exercise activities. Somebody plays football, another plays volleyball, another plays badminton.
But everyone can stretch.
Say that again.
Everyone can stretch.
I mean, my exercise is driving.
Driving is not an exercise.
That's my exercise.
How?
Oh, yeah, when I'm driving, my hands, I don't drive an automatic car. I drive a manual car. So I use it.
But after a while, your muscle memory kicks in. You're not actually engaged in what you're doing. It's just natural. That's not exercising.
When I do and go, at least I also give my body a rest. I wake up. And then, so for me, I used to do football, but that's my.
Both of you sound like you're not very flexible. Let's get into the Ghanaian times newspaper. Let's get into. No, you're not flexible. You can't stretch. Ghanaian times, please.
I don't know the flexibility. I think maybe it is a well-intended description because once a student leader, flexibility is very important.
Anyway, who has the Ghanaian Times? I want us to get into that paper now. Okay. Yes. Oh, you don't want to do it? Okay, Wanda, go ahead.
I should read it.
Yeah, stories on the front page, and then you pick one or two interesting ones, and then we discuss.
Oh, okay. The Ghanaian Times, we have 1 billion to retool the security agencies, President Mahama announces. And this can be seen on page 12 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. government earmarks, okay. Government, 1 billion to retool security agencies. The government has earmarked 1 billion to retool the security agencies to enhance their operational efficiency. President Mahama has said the security services, President Mahama noted, has a mandate to protect the citizenry, but could only do so with the right tools.
Yeah. What do you say to this? I think
for
our security agencies are underfunded, and this 1 billion will do a lot to revive their operations in ways that they were, they fell short because they didn't have adequate funds.
I think that the security agencies funding is an ending funding because day in, day out, security issues comes up and you need to retool the security services. Not long ago, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has retooled the security services. Every corner that you see them having the motorbikes, the visibility, the number of personnel that has been recruited. You also check we had to procure some helicopters, other vessels, and also be able to install over 10,000 security cameras. And the number of vehicles and armored cars that has been procured for them, some of them are not very good for discussions on public platforms because these are security matters. I think that every government needs to retool the security because we are always at risk because of these insurgents and other people who are very much interested in destabilizing the peace of Ghana from the other borders. I think that it is a very good call if the president will actually walk that particular talk.
Okay, you don't think it's too much money, 1 billion?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Security is very, very, very good for us.
Okay.
I think that our security is very paramount. We are here talking because we are alive, and our security agencies are there also working because they have the tools. What is wrong providing them with additional tools to be able to perform their duties and be able to minimize crime or even just take it away completely? I think that I must say kudos to our security services who have almost engaged in getting our safety very first. In the night you go, you see the checkpoints and all that. It is for our sake, and they cannot do that without the tools. Sometimes you'll be driving in the night, it will be raining, and you see the security, the police, some of them will not even have raincoats. You see that there's no even a shed for them. Sometimes you get very pity and you have nothing to do. So if we have such resources to be able to retool and get them guided. Some of them are used pickups. When they put them inside, you see the way they sit. Even though we have given them so much pickups, they still need so many to be able to.
You mentioned that former President Akufo-Addo did some retooling himself.
Yes. So
how would you assess what the gains that this current, I mean, it may be just 6 months or so, but how, since you say you're a security person, how would you assess the add-ons from this administration?
I'm not a security person, but I enjoy.
You said something.
Yes, I'm not a security person. I have my field of study, but I think that for security matters, it's very minimal to be discussed on platform because it also provide people the needed or the information to be able to attack on. But I think that this must be done. There are a lot of things that the security agencies need.
Okay.
Not only the police, we have the immigration, army, navy, all of them, they need to be retooled.
All right.
When you go closer to them, you would get to appreciate the fact that they are doing their best, but they need the right equipment to be able to perform their functions.
Wanda, he says, good call. It's not too much money because it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, the security apparatus, in fact, watching all the few chaos around the world, last night I was having a discussion with my brother and I said, so does Ghana have capacity? I didn't want to discuss it further because you see, in the global world where there are a lot of chaos, a lot of attempts to overturn and overthrow and all to cause all kinds of disruptions in economies, a country needs to be prepared. And this preparation is not pickups. I'm not talking about what he said. It's not provision of cars. It's not, it goes beyond. Even the intelligence, the capacity to pick up intelligence ahead of time. The US went into Iran and did an operation and nobody knew about it until they themselves announced that this is what we have done. And they did it at a time, you know, that's
midnight.
Yeah, for me, those are the things that intrigues me, that the country can plan and execute an agenda and it has not leaked. Nobody has talked about it until the president himself talked about it. Do we have those systems? Are we able to foresee threats to our sovereignty, you know, from either neighbors or from any aggressor or whatever of the sort? Can we? Do we have that system? I know that we have a good naval base. We have some U.S. command in our waters. I know that we also have the battalion. We have the Burma camps and a few of our armories and all that in Ho, in whatever, in Accra and all the others. But the question is it just about Gusha? Or it goes beyond the Gusha? You know, so for me, when we talk about retooling, I'm looking at sophistication. I'm looking at the preparedness of the country, even disaster preparedness. I saw in Israel, few hours after some of the shells have landed in Israel, the rescue team was on site and they were clearing, and as if nothing has happened. We had some time ago, Ashmata Mall, may the souls of the people who lost their lives rest in peace. And it took us days. We had a disaster at a circle. It took us days to clear the place. But these guys, things happen after a few hours, the whole place is ground zero. Everything is cleared. If lives that can be lost can be saved, are quickly saved. Right. So we need those systems. And I'll be happy if our security agencies have the capacity to do some of these things.
Let's get into your paper, Wanda, the overseer.
Oh, conflicted endorsements. Same MMDCEs backed Brian. 237 went to Brian, 220 went to Kennedy, went to Baumia, and 190 went to Kennedy. In fact, this is not an issue to even discuss. I
asked Haruna earlier. He said he couldn't confirm whether it's the same.
In fact, per their current constitutional provision, these people don't have votes, right? Is that one?
They don't.
They don't have votes, so it's a non-starter.
But the opinion leaders, they influence.
Well, you are endorsing for nothing. It's just like somebody writing an opinion piece.
But there's that recommendation for them to be included in the conference, and that will be presented by way of motion for adoption or rejection.
Oh, okay.
At conference.
Okay.
At conference.
The National Delegates Conference.
So, no, it's okay. That's fine. That's it.
You are trying to do Daibo.
Oh no, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I've all been student leaders before, so we are very, very diabolical.
The ex-MMDC is endorsing Baumia lack political principle. I think this is a lecturer who spoke to the issue and said that it didn't hold water, especially the kind of people who were doing the Ghanaian has become very sophisticated. One time we were told that you should fear delegates. Why? Because their eyes are open. You cannot easily tell somebody again, go and vote to Asimesi and they go. They will have to be convinced that at least there's something in it for them. 1, 2, they see vision in the person. 3, the person is trustworthy. And 4, he can deliver. So if they don't see some of these things, endorsement in itself doesn't wash. In this country, I mean, the last election, we've had prophets, we've had opinion polls, we've had all kinds of whatever tell us that John Mahama cannot win the election. He won with the biggest margin. So for us, let cool heads prevail. We wish the MPP well in their endeavor in recovery, if they will ever recover.
I see something on your paper. Petition filed over bloated register proxy vote scheme on the GJA elections. I mean, you're not a journalist, but this concerns you. We are the fourth.
It's because I don't have information. So
that's fine. I just want to read out the details so that they can pick up the copy for themselves. NPA boss calls for stiffer penalties on unauthorized fuel stations. And they're saying TOR to resume operations by October 2025, according to the managing director. That's also another controversial one. But let's go into some more stories you may have. Haruna, you wanted to say something?
Yes, you know, he has raised a topic. You see, when you go back to the NDC, prior to the election of President Mahama as candidate, you saw the entire national party declaring for President Mahama. Most of people who even came out to contest, they call them names. Look at Kobnado for all that they have done to him and all that. Look at the kind of insecurity, the petitions that have gone. And then today, my brother will sit down here and be talking about people coming out to declare, who even in a proper sense now have not had the voting right now. So if it is declaration, have you seen us as national officers? I have always come on this platform. It is for us to maintain that dignity and that respect so that we can provide the direction and ensure that we can get a unifying factor. Declarations will always happen, But this is not only aligned to any or one political party. So in this particular instance, they have chosen to do what they are doing. For me, if you ask me what my opinion is, it's wrong. It is wrong. You see, in one way or the other, sometimes you will see a teacher in a secondary school go to your university, and when they are doing, once the person becomes a student, the person becomes to behave in a certain manner. So I think that they are leaders in their own form. Let us all relook and make sure that at least we provide a certain sense of direction and hope for everybody. Those public declarations must stop.
So
I think that you can exercise your right in any form. We have a secret ballot system. When you have the right to vote, go and cast your vote. I know the person I'm going to vote.
Okay.
But I must exercise that because you are a leader. You must restrain yourself to provide direction so that you can be set as a unifying factor.
So now help me understand the intention or the objective behind that recommendation to bring in the MMDCs, the recommendation that you're going to present to your delegates conference, whether or not they should be brought into the fold.
Yeah, there was a recommendation for expansion of the college.
Okay.
And then the committee says that we are going to do it progressively to get to a point that where we will have one man, one vote. In that instance, every card-bearing member of the party will vote. So we are taking the necessary steps to get there. But for the meantime, we are going to have a very minimal increase in the pool, in the delegate system. So that is why MMDCs have been drafted in, former MMDCs have been drafted in, former constituency, regional, national, for national executives, that former has always been part. So constituency and region has also been drafted in, former ministers who are card-bearing members. So in all these instances, there can be an MMDC who has served under us. There can be an executive who have served under us. There can be a former MP who have served under us. But that particular person has decided to forfeit his or her membership. So it is those persons in good standing that will be allowed to participate so that we can give that facelift in terms of increasing the number of the delegate system so that at least it will be able to reduce that constant report from the media of monetization, what have you. So this is a minimal, it's a step. We have the intention to have a wider one. There are other programs that are there or expansion programs that are there. But this is the first step that we have to take. And all this will be tabled before conference. Conference will get to adopt them by way of motion.
Okay. Wanda, you don't get to respond to this, please. No, let's move on to... I'm
not responding. I'm just happy that they are finally copying what we have been doing all this while. The NDC has always had an expanded version of who elect our flag bearer and all this. MMDCs and the NDC always vote. Former appointees always vote. Former ministers always vote. Then we've been doing this for years.
Okay.
So, I've expanded even more than
I've just been told that
we have expanded more than you before and came back.
There's a story I want to...
You're giving...
Call to resume operations by October 2025. I'm very excited for this.
What happened to their $517 or $518 million debt?
So
how are they going to...
When the MD met Parliament, is that he was discussing with them to find ways either to restructure the debt or if government can, give a sovereign guarantee to offset it or whatever of the sort, they can try and get back on course. So there are schemes and works in place in order to shelve the debt while they work and then maybe use proceeds to pay up the debt and all that. It's been building up for years, and I think that TOR is one of the strategic points of this country that can give us a turnaround. If it's done well, we can recruit our, we can actually refine our own crude.
Yeah, because right now the system is more imports-driven than exports.
Yeah, the ones that are...
Do you really think we have the capacity to tip the scales in that way?
You never have
that
capacity
if TOR resumes, they can actually reduce our dependency on imports when it comes to refined
Not an entirety. I know they do about 45%. If the capacity can do 45% of our entire total consumption.
My attention has been drawn to a child being abused. Someone... an elders in a particular village have hanged a child and okay, so that's what you're seeing on your screen right now. What could this child have possibly done? Yes, in Ghana, we are just catching wind of this. and we need to condemn this. We'll bring you more details on this, but I don't know what a child could do that warrants or merits such punishment from elders. It doesn't look like elders. The guy lashing him even looks like a child himself, you know? And so where are the elderly people in the community who are looking on for this abuse to happen?
This is cruel. This is cruel. And the Ghana police should quickly...
this animalistic.
He's naked.
Doesn't deserve to be...
I don't think that those that are involved in this act should sleep in their house today. The security agencies should get to it.
Let's make this call. Yeah.
I don't think that. IGP Yohonu, if wherever you are or any security officer who is watching, please let's take note. This place should be clearly identified, and I think that this person should be arrested quickly. I don't think that these people should be able to sleep in there.
All of them, those looking on, those laughing, the one in the white shirt laughing. Please pick them up and let them face justice.
This is very, very barbaric.
This guy is very insane. He should be picked up now and dealt with properly. If they can't deal with it, they should call me. I can fix him.
Yeah? Okay.
Fix him.
Okay. So we are all condemning this.
Get Mustafa Bandi.
Yes.
Fix him.
This is unfortunate. I mean, the African mentality.
And
what is it?
The mother? Where's the mother? Where are the elders there? Where?
But the mother may not even be privy to what is happening. So I think that we should be looking for the culprit, not even the mother. I think that this is very unfortunate.
Listen, the Africans' understanding of pain and how they think they can use it to reorient children, for the life of me, I can never understand, you know? But this is where we are.
For me, Cain has never corrected me.
Yeah. We used to say Odeshi. I mean...
and then they tried to use the cane. I stopped. Because for me, cane cannot reform me. So it's better you look for a different way of getting people reformed. A look alone can also reform. But excessive caning, those things cannot. Or you use it to threaten. No, it doesn't show off. I think that we need to change.
Anyway, Haruna, you have the final say, and I think it's on a tour they're setting to operationalize. He chose his
topic, and I still want to remind your producers. I want the 2024 budget, and I want the 2025 budget. I want your producers should go to Appendix 4A, MMDA's expenditure allocations for the two governments. I want to state that point clearly. I don't sit here and peddle false figures. I want to be properly situated.
Okay, we will situate it for you.
Yes. And I actually want to get it done before I leave here.
The show is over, unfortunately. It's coming up?
But if the show is over, then...
I'm told they're working on it.
No,
unless I misheard you.
Yes.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
Because if you go, Office of Government Machinery for 2024 is 326,907,847. Office of Government Machinery.
For 2024.
For 2024. For Office of Government Machinery and the NDC for 2025 is 2 billion.
But you realize that this is just a budget, right? They haven't expended. They haven't expended.
It's the same budget they were using against us.
Even beyond that,
it is the same
budget. The budget of Ministry of Information has been attached to Office of Government Machinery. Felix Ofosu has explained this over and over.
But the ministers has always been part.
Which ministers?
Ministers. At this Office of Government. Are they not Article 71 office holders?
Oh, don't do this. Don't do
Office of Government Machinery.
Don't do this.
I really wish we could stay on this much longer.
No.
But you have your facts and you have said
I have my facts.
So you are saying
I have my and I want to give the goods and services, capex, and those things. I'm not reading. These are facts. That's why I always want.
Over 326 million. Haruna, okay. So thank you for joining us this morning for News Review. Those who joined us, Haruna.
Thank you so much.
Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, and Wanda Madilo is from the NDC Communications Directorate. And before we go, I want to send out this dedication to Priscilla Momo Ejay. Today is your birthday, coming from Isaac Kofi Ejay and Loretta from the back room. They say happy birthday and may God bless you abundantly. So that is Isaac Kofi Ejay's wife. I don't know if it lies in my mouth to say that, but congratulations. Are you looking? Yes, he is. Yes. Oh, God. So are you looking to do things differently, to level up your skills and get ahead in this challenging job market? Statistics show that it's tough out here for university graduates, with only a few landing jobs immediately after school. I hope their microphones are off. Doing things differently is what the Design and Technology Institute is all about. DTI offers programs ranging from precision welding, fabrication, design innovation, and so many more, including photography and entrepreneurship. Our programs are internationally recognized by the American Welding Society, Pearson, BTech, and CTVET, so you can shine here in Ghana or anywhere else in the world. If you're ready to do things differently and chart your path, check out DTI. Visit dtiafrica.com for admissions or call 054-169-3534 for more information. And thank you for the news review segment. Coming up next is our big stories. You want to stay with us. Wanda and Haruna, thank you so much. I wish you the very best. All the best to your two wives.
Somebody was telling me that. You go on
Despite the work we have done in stabilizing the economy, Ghana is not immune from the shocks of global events. Recent events in the Middle East, which involve an exchange of missiles between Israel and Iran, have started to escalate crude oil prices dramatically. I've asked our Minister of Finance and Minister of Energy to keep a close eye on the development and model the possible impacts on our petroleum prices and prepare measures to protect the recent gains that we have made.
So I can assure the good people of Ghana that currently, as we speak, we have enough stock or reserve to last us beyond 2 months. Beyond 2 months. Yes. And with all efforts, we are confident that we wouldn't have any problem with supply disruptions at all. We have for petrol, that's almost over 200 million liters of petrol in the country. When you look at diesel, we have in excess of 150 million liters. So these are enough stock that can last the country for a long time.
On the back of that as well, the country, we have suspended the implementation of the new ESLA levy. What's the conversation around that? How soon is it going to be implemented?
As the implementing ministry, that is the Ministry of Finance and GRA, the tax collecting agency, have pointed out, government itself is monitoring global events and will respond in the next foreseeable days coming.
Welcome back to the AM show. This is the big story segment, and you had there the President of the Republic of Ghana directing both finance, energy and finance ministers to model impact of this Iran-Israel war and find buffer solutions to absorb or give some shock absorbers to the consumer. We are about to have a conversation with a great panel this morning. I want to introduce everyone and then we'll get right into it. Of course, our data man, lead data analyst and researcher Isaac Kofi is here. We also speak to Alhaji Dr. Yusuf Suleimana. He's technical advisor, Minister of Energy, and technical lead for the GPP, the Phase 2 Implementation Committee. And we also speak to an energy strategist and former boss of TOR. We'll speak to Dr. Theo Champong. He's an economist and political risk analyst, and of course, our international relations expert will be joining us also, Nanaya Mureku. But first of all, I want us to understand where we came from, what the current situation looks like, and where we could be heading. So the data man, Isaac Kofi, will take us there. Kofi, over to you.
Well, Sweetie, now currently this is the most important trade route in the world right now, and that is the Strait of Hormuz, where a significant component of the oil we actually consume globally actually passes or uses this route just because of that long route around, Africa to other parts of the world, let's say Europe and then also the Americas. And this is the reason why this strait is so important. And if you see everybody talking about geopolitics and the tendency of this war affecting crude prices, because this part of the world you see, which is the Middle East, produces a significant component of the crude or the oil we consume every year. We understand the tensions here will actually affect, the trade routes that actually helps to transport some of the crude we find in the, the Middle East to other parts of the world. And especially if you look at countries like China and Japan that depends, heavily on crude coming from the Middle East. All of these are geopolitical factors that we will be analyzing. But the most important, country that we'll be focusing on is our own selves, Ghana. What is in for us? And why is the president even directing the finance minister and the energy minister to find solution? Why should, wars in other people's jurisdiction even affect us? This is simply because this is a country that spends about $400 million every month to import refined product or petroleum product to consume. It simply means that a significant component of the petroleum product we consume, we import them, and we spend huge sums of money to import these petroleum products. And so if there are supply restrictions and there is a problem with the local currency or the demand for the dollar goes up, it simply means that we're going to spend more to import some of these petroleum products. $400 million every month, and that is huge. And every government that comes to power, they look at this import bill and ask themselves how they can drive this down or maintain it and not allow some geopolitical factors increase this this import bill that we saw on the smart war. Now, this is so important. We need to actually have a template to follow. And when this war started and prices of crude reached as high as $72 per barrel, people were asking, are we at panic level yet? Are we at the level of the Russia-Ukraine era? This seemed to be a different war, and looking at the numbers, we are currently not at panic level yet, but it's still important to talk about buffers. Look at what happened during the Russia-Ukraine war when prices went as high as $120 per barrel. We are simply not at that level yet, and yesterday the fear was that Brent crude reached almost $77 per barrel, and that was the biggest shock that went across the globe, and people were worried. But this morning, when there were talks around ceasefire, we've all seen Brent crude actually falling to somewhere $69 per barrel, and even crude itself in the 60 zones. And many have said that if there is going to be ceasefire and you do not attach any form of bigger risks to this war, you can actually see crude prices coming out. Why? Because already Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries are stepping in to actually meet the demand of the world. And so that's why we are not really seeing the impact so much. But definitely, it's good to talk about government's targets for 2025 this year. We were estimating that if you look at the global tensions and other geopolitical factors, we were projecting some $74.7 dollars per barrel. And this is our projection as a country in the 2025 budget. And yesterday, when we saw that Brent crude has risen to $77, the fear was that we could reach $80 and possibly in the hundreds. And that could be a big blow to government, because what we know is that crude prices moves with the dollar. And so once you have crude prices becoming expensive, definitely the dollar index will also rise, and that will affect demand for dollars. And when countries like Ghana that depends a lot of dollars, you simply will see the local currency suffering, and we'll see some form of depreciation in there. Now, there is some sort of reply from OPEC, who are saying that, look, there is no need to panic because already they have this under control, and they have some of their members, actually Saudi Arabia, taking the painful pill to actually step in and meet up the demand. All of this telling you the reason why we've not seen prices rise as high as $100 per barrel. Also, others have also been reacting, but the most important thing to actually focus on is what happened. And our biggest fear is not to get to the point where we reach during the Russia-Ukraine war. We've seen some sort of stability with the exchange rate. Mind you, we've been here before, somewhere between 2021 and early part of 2022, see how the cedi was stable against the dollar. It was around
$1 to 6 cedis 50 pesos. But when there was that Russia-Ukraine tension, what you see is, I mean, the exchange rate rising from 6 cedis 50 pesos to as high as 14 cedis 20 pesos. And we all saw what it actually did to our economy. And as a result of that, we even had to go to an IMF program, do some painful debt restructuring and all of that. Many have said we possibly are not at the panic level yet because possibly the government has made us understand that if you look at the foreign exchange, in terms of the buffers we've built so far, we have enough local buffers to actually absorb some of this shock. And we know that usually the problem has always been demand and supply. And we know if you have the dollars, as for the fuel, you'll be able to buy. And government says they are rolling out the gold the gold board initiative, which they estimate could bring in over $1 billion every month. They've tightened the remittance space, which is also bringing in a lot. And as a result of this, there is supply of dollars for government to be able to give to BDCs to import. So there is no need to worry. But a big question is, with a country that has about 2 months of fuel storage, what is the buffer that we will need to, stand some of this shock that will be emanating from the Middle East? Currently, we know that yesterday the cedi didn't really start strong against the dollar. It was somewhere around 10 cedis, 31 pesos. But today, we are seeing 10 cedis, 30 pesos. And many have said that because of the drop in the crude prices, now the cedi can gain some form of respite. Now, this for me is an important chart. If you look at our export of oil, how much we get from our oil export, and then our import bill when it comes to oil, it tells you why petroleum product is possibly one of the biggest burden on the country in terms of demand for forex. Look at the blue line. This is our import bill when it comes to oil import. And the red line talks about our export so far. There was a point in our time where between 2019 and 2022, before we faced that big economic crisis, where our export was actually higher than our import. We were exporting more, we were getting more inflows from oil import than we were importing. Now, the picture changed when we had that crisis in 2022 and 2023, when now our import bill in terms of the petroleum product exceeds how much we get from export. This is a big, big risk. And the reason why we've seen the number of initiatives like the Gold for Oil deal, now the Gold Board and all of that to mitigate the kind of pressure that petroleum product puts on our forex. But, what is the summary of all of this? And why should you even care what is happening between Israel and Iran and possibly the US? It's simply because when you have crude prices rising, what happens is that demand for dollars will also rise because of the petrodollar system that we have. And then also you have prices at the pumps also rising. What it means is that transport fares might go up, and definitely you have inflation and energy sector crisis all following suit. And this is the reason why whatever happens in the petroleum space is so important that you cannot take it for granted. And as a result of this war, between Iran and Israel, and possibly America, is the reason why government has actually halted the implementation of that 1 cedi additional levy on petroleum product. And we all understand that the government made it a big point that they needed inflows from this tax handle to keep the power sector stable, especially to buy fuel. And so if this war rages on and government cannot implement the tax, it simply means that the energy sector shortfalls we pay will simply rise. Government will have to find money to actually bail out the energy sector. If it does not find the money through taxes, they will definitely go to the market to go and borrow. And many have said that government should not rush the international capital market. Currently, we have a B- with a stable outlook ratings. And if government finds itself in a situation where they cannot get money in the domestic space, especially through taxes, to fund the energy sector, we may be compelled to go to the international capital market, maybe earlier than expected. So possibly that's a summary. Now let's talk about the shortfall, the windfall that the president was speaking about. Why? Because at the beginning of the year, this is where export price, especially diesel and petrol, how much we're paying. Blue line is petrol, and then also the red line is diesel. We're paying close to 16 cedis per litre. Now we understand that this has reduced per what we are monitoring from Goyle Station, somewhere around 12 cedis 88 pesos and 12 cedis 38 pesos. The savings we are talking about in terms of 3 cedis 11 pesos for petrol and somewhere 3 cedis 49 pesos for diesel. It simply means that the more we keep enjoying some of these windfall, the more it gives government, that kind of, reason to possibly go ahead to implement the 1 cedi levy. But when you have this war raging, it could be that the export price will actually go up and it will be difficult for government to actually implement this levy to save the energy sector. We also know that once the energy sector or once export prices are rising, you definitely will see what is going to happen in the the transport sector. The final one that yesterday became a big conversation was how government was going to protect consumers. It spoke about the price stabilization and recovery levy. This is the levy that we all pay, and in situations like this, government is expected to use some of these levies to cushion consumers. Over the years, from 2016 to 2024, government has been able to collect some 4.0 billion Ghana cedis from this levy. Amount utilized, according to the ESLA report, is close to 2.59 billion. The question is, the remaining gap of 1.44 billion, where did that money go? And in fact, this is the revenue, or there's a tax annual that is expected to cushion consumers in such troubling times. And what we are seeing is that even the inflows, 4 billion, it's not even close to how much government wants to get from that 1 cedi additional levy that they are imposing on export price. So the key question is, can that price stabilization and recovery levy actually save the country? And if there are talks around ceasefire and we see crude prices dropping, could this be the point where government could say that, well, we feel is the right time to start implementation of that additional 1 cedi levy on export price of fuel to save the energy sector, sweetie? Thank you so much, Kofi AJ. And you have to stay with us. You're with us throughout the entire conversation. And so that's the, should I call it, the quantitative analysis or presentation of what the situation is right now. Let's get into the qualitative part. And I'm coming to you now, Dr. Yusuf Sulemana. So let's start with a bit of background in terms of the geopolitical oil risk. Have we seen similar incidents like this in the past that have caused disruptions in fuel prices?
Yeah, we did. Thank you very much, sweetie, for having me this morning. And that's how come a lot of people are sitting on tenterhooks. Because we've seen it before. The last two that I will just put here, somewhere in the 70s, we had the famous Israel-Arab War. And as at that time, the Arab world controls significant quantity of what the West produce, what the West consume in terms of hydrocarbon product. So they came together and put an oil embargo. So if you go and look at the famous oil embargo, and that collapsed the market. It was one of the incidents in history that caused a market meltdown due to oil prices. Second one, fast forward, we had in the 80s Iran-Iraq war. That one they call it the usual tanker war. And that one is the one that is similar to what we have here. In this particular, conduit we call Strait of Hormuz. It's a critical conduit, it's a choke point, which is very critical. And if there's any disruption within that, it's going to cause a lot of problems within the hydrocarbon flow. So yes, these are the two incidents. But if you look at what is happening at this moment in time and comparing to what happened then, a lot of things have happened. A lot of things, we have a lot of changes. U.S., because of that happened, U.S. has gravitated to be the #1 oil producer and exporter. A #1 oil producer and #1 oil consumer. So they wanted to be energy independent. Fortunately, thanks to shale patch fracking, they've done that since 2019. U.S. has been the #1 oil producer. Yes, in fact, they surpassed Saudi Arabia and Russia, who are following, the two countries following U.S. suit. So the reason why I said the politics have changed, and they've also gotten very close to the Gulf states. Hitherto, those who united together to put an oil embargo, we cannot have that again. It's going to be very difficult. So yes, fundamental things have changed, but we still have the premium of the potential closure of Strait of Hormuz on the horizon. And the high time, cool heads prevail, the better. Yes. What I'm hearing is that crisis in the Middle East can instantly ripple across the global market, and it affects the average Ghanaian. And this is not the first time. So what, in terms of capacity, Energy Ministry, Finance Ministry, Bank of Ghana, COMAC, and the rest,
Do you think that from that point, many years ago to this point, we have adequately prepared ourselves to be able to be self-reliant? Or if not, the panic thing you said, Isaac Ofeje, you mentioned that we are not yet at the Russian-Ukraine war panic stage. What is the difference between that point and where we are right now?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of fundamental difference between Russia and Ukraine and then this particular one. I see this particular one as more even destructive, than Russia-Ukraine one. And the reason being that what you've just enumerated. If you look at the Gulf state, the GCC states, there are about 6. We have Oman, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, and Qatar. These are what we call the GCC states. And then we also have Iraq on one side. Then we have Iran on the other side. Iran is not GCC, but cumulatively, these players can contribute closer to 30%. We may not be importing directly from them, but it's a closed loop. Once we are able to knock out some oil barrels from the global space, let's say this particular conduit can control like 20%, a fifth of global oil global oil consumption. So if you're able to knock out a little bit of that, the cascading impact on the overall oil price will be dire. And that's how come place like Ghana, we are going to be impacted, especially like my good friend mentioned, African countries and Ghana is not insulated from that. We are heavily import dependent, especially for petroleum products. So when it happens that way, we're going to be impacted. You ask a very good question. Are we prepared? I won't say fully, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. If you look at the projections that are ongoing with respect to our preparedness, that is very good. But going forward, what we need to do is that we will just have to have buffers. We have to robustly develop our energy infrastructure, i.e. bus, toll, our gas infrastructure and distance. Because these are the things that, that will serve as cushion. If you become energy reliant and these things come, I mean, there are those that will serve as temporary buffer. There are other things that we can do, technically in terms of linking the upstream and downstream to be able to cascade windfalls, which we are doing at the moment. Power, petroleum sector to cascade windfalls, which we are doing at the moment. If we do those things internally, when this particular incident unfolds, nobody will be insulated, from that. But of course, the magnitude of impact will vary depending on your preparedness. Okay. And if you do that, I think we'll be much, much more prepared to be able to withstand those incidences. Okay, I'll come back to you. Nanayo Mreku is an international relations expert, and he joins us in studio. Nanayo, last time we had a conversation, some 2-3 conclusions we drew have come to pass, that it's likely that President Trump will enter this Israel-Iran war. And now that has happened and Iran has responded, although they're saying it's choreographed just to get it out of their system, what does this mean to the Ghanaian? Is that we've seen the end of this in total? Is Iran going to strike again? You are the international relations expert. Help us understand where we are right now in the war.
Good morning to your viewers and good morning to yourself. I think that there is fatigue in the camps of both Israel, Iran, and US. Remember, President Trump did not want to entangle in these kind of wars in the first instance. So I'm pretty much convinced, if you look at the fact that, and I said it here in the previous engagements we've had, that the only person that Netanyahu Bibi is likely to listen to is President Donald Trump. And so when Trump has come out to say that he enthusiastically expects Bibi to agree to the ceasefire and enter into negotiation with Iran, I think that this is going to be a cessation of hostilities, at least for the time being. And until Iran probably escalates, and I don't think it is in its interest to do that, it has done the calculation to the extent that it even informed the Americans before they engage in this kind of attack in Qatar and Iran. Yeah, did he inform the Americans or inform Qatar because he were going to hit on their land? And, there was sovereignty things, so you have to inform them. And they, in turn, informed the Americans. Well, what was that? It's basically the same approach anyways. Because for a long time, Oman and Qatar have been the intermediary between Iran and US. So if Iran does not directly speak to US and it informs Qatar to inform US, it's just the same, come back to the same channel. But I think that by and large, it appears that this is going to be, in my opinion, I think that it is nobody's interest to escalate because the Iranian defense is obliterated, their conventional military tactics is compromised. They have lost a lot of missiles. They are not bargaining from a place of power. So what has happened gives the Iranian regime the ability to save face and inspire confidence in their citizenry that they were not defenseless, they were able to defend themselves. But at the same time, once this has been achieved, what it means is that now let's get back to the negotiation table. So it's a win-win for the Iranian regime and it's a win-win for Donald Trump. I mean, he is going to claim victory knowing him for what has happened. Staying back from the crisis, it was in the interest of US to use Israel to neutralize Iran's nuclear capability. But when Trump realized that there was an opportunity for him to take the glory, they strike with the bunker bombers, and now claiming that they were the one that dealt the final blow to the whole war. And once again, they will say that it is because of the military might they demonstrated, the military muscle they demonstrated to the Iranians that compelled the Iranians to be calculated and then come back to the negotiation table. So I think that, as I said, it is nobody's interest to escalate the crisis now, and I would not be too far from saying that probably we are getting close. This is just a cessation of hostilities momentarily, but we are seeing who doesn't escalate the situation. Iran has come out to say it support that. Israel has come out to say it support the cessation of hostilities. So I think that we are nearing the end of what Trump calls the 12-day war.
Hopefully.
Historic development.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So let me go to Dr. Theo Champong now. He's an economist and political risk analyst. So the data man has told us where we are right now, Isaac Ofieje. The energy expert has also told us where we are now. And we've listened to the international relations expert, and he says that we are nearing the end. I want to hasten slowly and say we are nearing the end because you never know. It's a very fragile situation. But we heard the president say that the finance and energy ministers should model impact and find buffer solutions to absorb the consumer of these shocks. Help us reconcile how exposed we are right now as we speak on the back of all the angles of conversation that we've had so far. Dr. Theo Champong.
When I see my brother Yusuf and the rest of the people in there. And actually, I must thank Isaac for a very good job in presenting or doing the research and making our work quite easy to just speak to the issue. So kudos on that. I think a lot of the modeling work and the assessment is already been done. Like Yusuf was saying. In my view, and also the gentleman who's the international relations expert, in my view, the worst of the sort of crisis or war probably is over. And you can see that in terms of the market reaction and the expectation from both the futures market for oil and then also sort of other commodities in that regard. And we've been here before in not too recent history. So if you go back to 2020 when the Americans took out the Iranian general, was it Qasem Soleimani, we had similar tensions. We did see oil price rise briefly for a few days or some weeks, and then eventually there was some sort of backroom diplomacy to try and reduce or quieten things down. I think we are in a position as a country now where, in my view, we have better preparedness and more response to the crisis than we did, for example, during the pandemic and during the Russia-Ukraine war in that regard. You look at the budget numbers as the Isaac presented, and for 2025, the budget actually was prepared on the basis of $75 a barrel. We're expecting $79 a barrel in 2026 and beyond. And so far, if you look at our numbers on oil imports, we spend more importing oil than we do exporting oil. So last year, or close of play last year, we spent 4.6 billion on oil imports, and then we got 3.9 billion coming into our trade account. And even that 3.9 billion that we got, that was not all that belonged to us, right? Our share of that was just a little over 1 billion or so. So what the current hostilities and the cessation of the crisis, the ceasefire that we're hearing this morning really means is that if that is to continue, we're more or less to see a reversal or an extension rather of the status quo, in the sense that the budget numbers that were presented in March by the finance minister would not so much have been out of gear Next month, the mid-year budget is going to be presented, and I'm sure the finance minister will give us further update as to sort of the responses that they've had to this. But fundamentally, we have enough reserves on the forex side at the moment to be able to mitigate or safeguard that. We also have had, in terms of the inflationary dimension or the inflationary impact, the last reading came in at 18.4%. Even if you factored in the last 2 weeks of the conflict within that, I suspect that the April reading would not be too far off from that. We may be looking at the 19 or 19 point something, but certainly not going to the 20% mark as well. And then the point that Yusuf made, which is for me the really, really important point, what do we do to build more buffers going forward as a country? And we've spoken on this on several platforms over the last 10 or so years on the need to build buffers, on the need to invest in your energy infrastructure, on the need to ensure that BOST is actually acting as a strategic player within the market and not just as an ordinary BDC or bulk distribution company, on the need to ensure that we are actually also growing and diversifying the economy, right, away from the three primary commodity exports that we have been used to since independence. So you look at the numbers, on the export side is gold, cocoa, and oil. The three of them collectively account for over 80% of our export basket by value. And if you don't do something fundamentally or drastically about that, you're actually going to be in very, very serious trouble anytime that there's an external shock on the market.
Doc, let's stay here for a bit. I understand that gold is a safe haven for investors. So as we speak, you can't depend on oil, so you rather put your money in gold, which means that the demand is high right now. Just analyze this for me, and feel free to correct me where I may make a mistake. Now, if this crisis ceases, it means that it will reverse back to the stock market and oil. And that could also mean that the demand in gold supply or gold will reduce. What would that mean for us? Because you're saying that we have enough reserves, international reserves, and it's because of the demand for gold right now. So what happens to us if the crisis ceases?
So before even this crisis 2 weeks ago, and you look at the numbers and the forecast coming from a number of the investment banks, whatnot, we still don't expect gold prices to drastically drop. So when I say drastic, as in below $2,700, $800 an ounce for the next 6 months. And the point I was even making to tie in that earlier is that the world that we're in now is actually one where we're going to have more and more of these geopolitical uncertainties much more frequently. So whereas, a decade or so ago, every sort of 5 to 8 years, you were having a major crisis, we're actually now having major geopolitical crisis almost every 2 to 3 years, right? And that plays either ways. You see people then moving to safe haven assets like gold or to other investment vehicles. But specifically for gold, even with the the cessation of the conflict, there are other geopolitical issues that are going on that is not necessarily as a result of what is happening in the Middle East. So we do still expect prices for gold to remain moderately high, and that should help us in terms of bolstering, our reserves. But the medium to long-term solution, of course, is not in gold. You have to diversify the economy.
Go ahead.
Of the implementation of that additional 1 cedi on the export price of fuel, many Ghanaians, although war is not a good thing, but felt like this was some sort of, safe breathing space for government not to implement that levy. Now that there are talks around ceasefire, we've seen crude prices dropping.
Do you think that government could get back to the table and start, the implementation of that 1 cedi additional levy? Because the argument is that is expected to save the energy sector. The inflows there is expected to be used to buy fuel to power the thermal plants.
I think all options are on the table, and I think the finance minister, the energy minister, and the rest of the team would be analyzing and assessing the impact. I wouldn't be surprised if the 1 cedi levy comes back, in the coming weeks. If you look at even the general reaction of the citizenry to this, it's been largely sort of accommodating in some respects. So I probably think that, with where things are going now, with the potential escalation of the conflict, with markets baking that in, we may likely see the 1 cedi possibly, coming back. But that is, at the preserve of the Minister of Finance and the Ministry of Energy. The point which we both agree to, and which probably Yusuf can speak more about as well, is that we have serious challenges within Ghana's energy sector, and we need to do something, about it. There are concerns as to how monies that have been collected in the past have been, utilized with ESLA and whatnot. But I think once we have further assurance and we have safeguards around the 1 cedi and what it will be used for, and the minister accounts to Ghanaians through Parliament, perhaps, we'll be looking at some possible solution to addressing the crisis on the energy sector side for the country.
Dr. Suleiman, so let's come to you now. You said we should look within to find our solutions. And so I have to ask the question, could our local gas and oil production soften the blow? I know as we speak, TOR is in debt of about $518 million as we speak. But they're saying that they may be set to operation or reopen the operations in October. Is it enough what we are doing right now, and what more can we do?
Yeah, that's a good one. So if you look at, I would say categorically that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And why I'm saying that is look at the posture and some of the steps that the administration is taking, then you'll be very much confident that we will have light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know whether you've heard of the big push, where a lot is going to go into infrastructure. And that's not all. You've also heard of the ABFA. That used to be segregated in piecemeal-wise, where a little bit of it will go here is petroleum revenue. Dr. Chiachimpo mentioned about judicious use of our petroleum revenue. We have the PRMA, but over the years, consistency in sticking to the dictates has been a challenge. Now, this administration is saying that they're going to channel 100% of it into infrastructure. And why that pleases me is my first point. What we need now is to just build our oil and gas infrastructure base. These are the things that will cushion us when this geopolitical dynamics hit us. And you mentioned TOR. TOR is one. Isaac mentioned about 350 to 400 million US dollars that we use to import. If we're able to do half of it, that would be a serious pressure relief on the local currency, undoubtedly.
But they have the capacity to give us, to reduce that cost by half?
Yes, we can even do, if you revamp it, retool it, even increase the capacity, which is on the horizon. If you're able to do that successfully, we are going to do that. We're going to be able to do that. That's for the oil side. Let's come back to the gas side, the genesis of this 1 cedi. If you notice the shortfall because of the weaknesses within the infrastructure, which we are working robustly to build, especially within the distribution arm. We use substantial amount of money to import liquid-based fuel. This is very expensive. And this is not factored in the tariffs. That's unfortunate. That's one thing we must know. So I mentioned that this strategy that we are talking about, we want to look at the energy sector holistically, where we don't think that power sector is different from petroleum sector in a way, so that when there are windfalls in one areas, we should have a clear strategy to be able to cascade that into the other sectors. And I've always advocated that, which I think we are making headway, working at a formula to be able to use windfall from upstream to support the downstream, and then the vice versa. Remember we did that, if you look at a levy that some time ago when oil prices collapsed, when oil prices drop, you have a huge relief at the downstream side, and then the vice versa. So we introduced some levy. Now, that is similar to this one cedi. If you notice what account for what the consumer pays at the pump, there are three. One, this levies and margins that we have, which is, we say we hold constant. The other one is the commodity price within the international scene, which over the years until the starting of this, pandemonium, recent pandemonium, it was very favorable. The oil price were in the 60s. Then the third component is the exchange rate. Fortunately, our city has performed tremendously well. I mean, we've enjoyed a bit of stability. And so these two, it has been to our favor. And that's how come even the premium of this war, we haven't seen it that much. It could have crossed probably even to some, the oil, I mean, the pump price could have skyrocketed. But because we had that kind of relief a little bit. So what they were trying to do, or what we were trying to do, is if, let's say, price at 10 cedis, and then it's supposed to drop from 11 to 10. Then we just drop it from 11 to, from 17 to 10. We drop it from 17 to 11. That one cedi. It's not like an increase of any sort. It's just a reduction. And that helps in a way that we are struggling at the power sector. Yeah. If, assuming we were to use this liquid-based fuel and factor into the tariffs, the tariffs could have skyrocketed to more than 50%. So we have called for the fact that not only the power and the petroleum sector, the upstream and downstream, if we link them up seamlessly and efficiently, most of these shocks we're going to be able to go around them. The final thing is the gas, which I will call the game changer here. If you notice, we had Ghana gas that came about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to have another gas. Imagine if you didn't have Ghana gas in this kind of equation, what would have happened? If Ghana gas is going down today, we're going to do a lot of calculations, manipulations to be able to safeguard us from going into a bit of load shedding. You understand that? Okay. So I think also building our gas infrastructure will help that. Okay. It will help build our energy security. And also it will kill two birds with one stone. It will also help increase our oil production. You know why? Because most of the reasons why our oil is declining, our production profile is declining, is because of gas offtake. That's one of the reasons, apart from the aging assets. So if you're able to extract the gas efficiently, I believe we'll be able to increase our oil production whilst we build our energy security holistically within the power sector and then the petroleum sector.
Trade at this point where it's not a war between either China and Iran or Israel. But definitely one thing you should know is that China is one of the biggest consumers of energy from the Middle East. So Mreku, looking at China, they are our biggest trade partners. If this, war continues and fuel prices become very expensive, it simply means that cost of production in China is likely to increase. What could that have in terms of the impact on inflation and even energy in our country right now?
Put it, China is one of Ghana's largest trading partners, and so if there is any kind of economic pushback that affects them, it also affects us. Yeah. For instance, the U.S., China trade war, for instance, we saw how that affected, Ghana's ability to trade with China and U.S., too. So I think that, and like you said, China also imports. If you look at Iran right now, China is probably one of the largest supplier of these crude energy. Crude oil. So by and large, if these things continue to happen and it affects the global chain, the global chain of supply, if it affects China, the little countries that also trade with China are also affected in so many ways. And that is why, for me, I think that when these kind of conflicts occur, countries in the global south they are better placed to play intermediary roles or mediatory roles than for us to entangle or to take position. Because at the end of the day, like they say, when two elephants fight, it's the ground that, suffers. So it's always in our interest to play this mediating role, this intermediary role, and see that the global architecture is peaceful, because when it is that way, it supports global trade, and it trickles down to these smaller economies, like Ghana. So I think it's in our interest to see that eventually this crisis comes to an end. Talking
about mediating crisis coming to an end, in the last hour we are hearing that missiles have been launched into Israel. Iran is saying they didn't have anything to do with it, and it tells you how fragile the ceasefire is. Meanwhile, Ghana has closed its embassy in Tehran. So do these diplomatic actions tie into what we need to be doing to safeguard our economy?
Well, I think it's just interwoven. You can't separate one from the other. You know, that's how global politics has become. Economics is at the fulcrum of whatever is happening. I mean, I'll come to your question, but look at the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
As much as the crisis has come to an end, Iran has not agreed to put an end to its nuclear capabilities. It is now that they are going to sit around the table to negotiate. So if Iran is uncertain that it cannot, because if you look at the non-proliferation treaty, there are 3 cardinal points in it. It talks about non-proliferation, it talks about disarmament, and it talks about the peaceful development of nuclear energy. You know, not to manufacture nuclear weapons, but countries have the right to go into nuclear arrangements for peaceful purposes. So Iran cannot be compelled to totally destroy its nuclear ambitions, especially if it's able to argue that it is going to use that for peaceful purposes. And so once you're unable to come to terms with them and an agreement is not established, then they could go back to some of these things. It might not be a conventional warfare, but they could also they could decide to touch on these other soft spots like the Strait of Hormuz. They could do other things that once again affect the global economic architecture. So I think that until we have a playing field as to what negotiation mean for the Israel-Iran crisis as far as nuclear capabilities are concerned, it is not really a straightforward issue. We just have to wait and see what happens. But like I said, these are interwoven. One issue is likely to affect the other. And we know how critical the Strait of Hormuz is for oil production.
Do you think the ceasefire is artificial?
For me, I think it's organic. I think it's organic. Like I said, it is in nobody's interest to keep this crisis ongoing. Even Israel, regardless of its military might, is experiencing some fatigue, within the country because of its military depletion as far as resources are concerned. And Iran, like I said, is in no position of strength. Its proxies in the area are seriously compromised. U.S. is also the domestic politics of U.S. is not engaging, is not encouraging Donald Trump to continue this all-out war, especially, like I said, because of these midterm elections coming up in November. So he wants to disentangle U.S. from these global wars and concentrate on how to win elections coming in November. So I think that, for me, it is not artificial. I think it's organic, and we can only hope for the best.
So does the closure of the embassy affect Ghana's energy import relationship or access to strategic partnerships in the Gulf in any way?
So I don't think so. In my opinion, I don't think so, because this was, it was a response to what was happening in Tehran. But once like take Qatar, within the moment that Iran was seeking to strike Qatar closed up its airspace, redirected all airplanes coming to Qatar. But right after the hostilities and everything was normalized, the country has come back to normalcy. What it means is that once the cessation of hostilities in Iran and Tel Aviv, and things begin to take its rightful shape, most of these embassies will begin to work. And what it means is that the diplomatic connections Ghana has in the Middle East will begin to function normal. But it will take a number of days for us to see how events turn out. So I don't think it's going to affect our diplomatic arrangements.
Kofi.
Well, Sweetie, let me go to Dr. Stuart Champo. Doc, I mean, the president says he's spoken to the governor and the finance minister. They believe the cedi's natural level should be between 10 cedis and 12 cedis. Brutu says he sees this ceasefire to be very organic. What does an organic ceasefire have on the strength of the cedi? Definitely, we've seen a stability instead of an appreciation within the last 7 or 14 days. A proper ceasefire, what would be the impact of the Ghanaian cedi that we are currently relying on as one of the litmus paper to test whether the economy is really thriving at the moment?
Yeah, it would be, the economy would be as to the levels where things were before the war. So before this conflict, we had seen a major appreciation of the currency. The forecast and expectations is that it's going to probably end the year around the 11 cedi or so mark. So with this organic ceasefire, to borrow Mariku's words, and I fully align with that if you look at all of the players within this particular conflict, both on the Israel side, on the Iran side, which has been severely weakened, and then on the American side with the domestic politics, it's probably not in anybody's interest to really, continue escalating things, because the unintended consequences could actually be more dire for either side. So it means potentially a good thing for the Ghanaian economy. One, in the fact that, as we've discussed, you're not likely to see oil prices go further up. Number two, what that then means is that the potential impact on that on inflation and especially on transport, that is partially mitigated. But I think number three, also the fact that, on the reserve side of the equation, currently we've got about 32 or so tons of gold worth around or in excess of 3 billion, something like that. That allows us to be in a much better position as a country from just the financial perspective or the economic perspective to be able to respond adequately to the impact of the crisis. So I am relatively bullish. I am very hopeful that we likely would have seen the worst of the crisis over, and the Ghanaian economy would continue on the recovery path that it has already been on for the last, several months. And we've got a review of the IMF program as well that is coming up, and all of these factors will be taken into account. But let's be on the lookout for next month when the finance minister comes to give us the media update.
Thank you. We should be wrapping up. I'm told we have about 5 minutes or so to pop off. So, Dr. Yusuf Suleiman, let's talk about the domestic production buffers, or should I call them contingency tools? Yeah. Stabilization fund, forex reserves, duty reliefs, and we might also add the gas processing plant phase 2. What does this all do to Ghana's energy security? Where do we stand going forward?
Yeah, so...
Does it boost your confidence, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, it's a very good one. If you look at when they call energy security, there are about 3-4, arms. We are talking about energy availability, energy dependability, energy affordability, and sometimes the quality of energy, So, and if you look at over the years, it's always been a challenge in a way, in the sense that if you look at the existing infrastructures, they are not able to live up to expectation in terms of their robustness, especially when we have external factors that come to play. And that's how come I mentioned that I'm relieved of the idea of the big push, and then the fact that we are investing so much into our energy infrastructure. Now, let me tell you what, for instance, the gas processing plant can do in a way. I just mentioned that annually we can spend over $1 billion in equivalent of liquid base fuel importation. Now, two things. If assuming we have a refinery running, just a single component within the refinery can do our power generation. If you have a gas plant running, that can do two things. The gas plant, number one, will be able to help us in the power generation side. So what we call gas to power. Mm-hmm. So those kind of dynamics, then that would have meant that would have gravitating towards achieving what we call energy sufficiency. So I'll come back to the point that I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. If we are able to balance and make sure that we are focused in revitalizing our downstream infrastructure and even our upstream, and the upstream is even beautiful city. If you look at before this administration, we had stagnation in terms of what we call oil production. We had decline and we almost had inertia. But the players, I think they've gotten renewed confidence with a lot of players saying that they're going to invest back into Ghana. Chevron, Chevron, Shell, and Cosmos, and even our existing players. So if you have that also, and then the investment go as planned, that is going to rejuvenate our upstream sector. And so if you have these signs and signals within the horizon, I think it's supposed to give us a lot of confidence. Then I'll just be a little bit off to why this state of humors is a critical thing. This is a strait that borders between Oman and UAE on one side. Now, in a day, about 90 ships passes through this. Mm-hmm. And we are talking about 1 billion to 1.6 billion daily on equivalent of petroleum products. In a year, we are talking about 600 billion of petroleum products. So, and if anything should happen in terms of destruction, Ghana may not be important from most of these countries, but it's a closed loop. Wherever Ghana is importing from, this same petroleum product gets there and Ghana will import. So at the end of the day, the common variable is the crude oil prices. So that if there's destruction, definitely to skyrocket the crude oil prices. But like I agree with my friend Miraku and then Dr. Tia Chempo. I also believe that the premium of the conflict is almost vaporizing. And it's not in anybody's interest. And I believe that with ceasefire, we're going to achieve a lot of gains, especially within countries or within countries that are import dependent in terms of petroleum product, and Ghana is not an exception.
All right, thank you. Nana Miraku, I mean, feel free to reflect on that part. Of course, we've been hearing that it's not even about the production of oil when these major infrastructure places are hit, but it's about transport, export. But who won the war, and how did we fare in it? Conclude for us.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's a win-win for both Israel and Iran. But of course, you know that Donald Trump will sit at the back of his table in the Oval Office and claim that he made everything possible. He lit the fire and then went around trying to control it with a as a firefighter. Yeah. But I think that Ghana has a lot of lessons to learn from this. Like Dr. Tio Champon says, every now and then, every 3 or 4 years, something happens as a shock to the country and to the global south. There was COVID, there was the Russo-Ukraine war, and now there is the Iran-Israel war. And like I said, we are almost at the receiving end of this kind of crisis. So going forward, we have to put in place measures because you cannot always behave like we are novice to these kind of conflicts, and not know what to do when they happen. So going forward, I think that it sums up everything that the respected pundits, experts on this morning show, have said. That we need to get ready for these kind of things as and when they happen. And I think that the country is doing very well. The administration is putting in place a lot of measures. Fitch has, upgraded Ghana's credit ratings. They have. It's really bolsters the economy. It inspires confidence. So we hope things normalize as we go on ahead. So we didn't win the war. Isaac Ofieje, we're wrapping up, but final thoughts for us?
Well, prayer is that gold prices should stay stable. They shouldn't drop because this is an economy that is being moved from being backed by euro bonds to gold. And so our hope is that gold prices should stay stable for us to get maybe the benefits of the gold board initiative. Other than that, we possibly will find ourselves in a difficult situation.
Well, thank you all, gentlemen. I'm very lucky. I was the only lady in the mix. For joining us, we had Isaac Ofieje, our lead data and research analyst right here at Joy News. We also spoke to Alhaji Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, technical advisor, Ministry of Energy, and of course, the technical lead for the Gas Processing Plant Phase 2 Implementation Committee, and a former boss for TOR and an energy strategist, of course. And we spoke to Dr. Theo Champong. He's an economist and political risk analyst. We spoke to him on Zoom. Thank you, Prof. And of course, our international relations expert, Nanaya Miraku. It's always a pleasure to host you. Folks, stay with us. When we return from the break, we'll be telling you about the scars of hooliganism on the AM show. Hello, you're still watching the AM show on Joy News with yours truly, Sweetie Abochi. Let me tell you now about the University of Free State, actually the Bloemfontein University in South Africa. Now, they are a top-tier research-led university, and they're known for the academic excellence, world-class research, a vibrant, inclusive student community, and the list goes on and on and on. But I want you to hear from the horse's own mouth. I have in studio with me Ms. Nomode Mbadi. She's Director, Student Recruitment Services, and Mr. Tidi Masakala. He's Assistant Director, Student Recruitment Services. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You both look very colorful.
Oh, yes.
And so I'll start with you, Nomode. Introduce us to your school and tell us why we should even follow along with this whole conversation and get to know why we should attend.
All right. So the University of the Free State is based in South Africa in a province called the Free State Province. The Free State Province is at the center of the country. That's where everything converges. It is a beautiful campus, a vibrant campus, multicultural, multidimensional campus. And we pride ourselves in having a student-centered approach where we welcome all students from all over the world and make them feel at home. So we try to create an environment that's supportive to the students so that they really do feel part of the university community.
Okay, sounds very attractive. So Tidi, what is your unique selling proposition? Apart from the vibrant, student-inclusive community that you have, what about your teaching methodology? What about the curriculum, the type of research that you do that is attracting Ghanaian students, that should attract Ghanaian students to come? Yeah.
If you're interested in knowing more about climate change, the university is there. Innovation, the university will assist there. In terms of policy as well, if you want to understand that field, the university will assist you in terms of that. University is not only about numbers, it really is about personal touch in terms of student excellence, in terms of research as well. Our mentors as well are very good when it comes to that. We're internationally recognized university. So what you get at the university is not only for regional, but also international knowledge.
Because of the international bid, I believe you have some special arrangements to help international students. Relocating to a new country for education is not easy. Talk less how expensive it is. What facilities do you have to help or support Ghanaian students who might want to travel to South Africa?
Well, the support starts even before you travel to South Africa, because we've got the Office for International Affairs, which is there to assist students to transition from their own country to South Africa. We understand the different cultures. What we also do is we create a buddy system. So we'll find students from your country that look like you, that speak your language, that are then going to assist you to navigate the university life, expose you to all the facilities that we have, and make you feel like at home. So we'll help you with your study permits if you're an undergrad student. There is a whole lot of requirements, like you need to have medical aid, you need to have done your study applications this time. We're there to support you all the way.
Okay.
For postgraduate students that don't necessarily need to study on campus, because even though we're a residential university, we do allow research programs. When if you're doing a research program, you don't have to be in South Africa. You don't need to get a study permit for that. We'll help you. If you want to have appointments with your supervisors, we'll be able to set that up for you. We do have accommodation facilities as well on campus and off campus for those that want to stay within campus.
Okay. Tidi, you mentioned climate change, which is a new area of study. It used to be just this campaign, like we should be cautious about the climate, but now I know there's big budgets for climate change initiatives, and so people need to be educated well to do that. Aside that, what other programs that are, or maybe new to the Ghanaian that will attract us to come to the school?
We have the health sciences at the University of the Free State. We have business studies. If you are interested in law, we have that. Bloemfontein is one of 3 capital cities in South Africa. It's the judicial capital, so that's where you get our appeal court. So our lectures basically are the knowledge in terms of coming to law in South Africa. So we are quite broad university.
Okay, because like you said, over 300 programs, right? So it means whatever you're looking for, you can find it. Can we talk about how expensive or not it is? I mean, you are here, so you're looking for international students, Ghanaian students. How easy it is to pay the fees, accommodation, settling, cost of living, all of it. You do have some experience, Ghanaian students in the past. So can you share their experiences with us?
Right. So what we did before we came here, we had a few interviews with them because we needed to get a sense of how are they finding and how are they navigating the university life. And I've met 2 already that were really excited that we were here, because it then gives an opportunity for more Ghanaian students to be part of the university. We do assist them with a whole lot of things that ensures that they are able to adapt to the university. Our fees It's international fees, and international fees are more than South African fees. Our registration fee for this year was?
Around 22,000 South African rands, but converted into Canadian cedis, that would be around 12,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really affordable.
Yeah.
It's really affordable.
Sounds affordable. Chidi, you are an alumni. You went to Le Bouffentin University, right?
Yes.
How was your experience? I mean, as a student, what was that X factor about being a student at the school for you?
That's like 20 years ago, by the way.
Oh, okay. I mean, experiences is still worth sharing.
I enjoyed my experience there. I enjoyed staying at Rest. I stayed at a Rest called Villa Bravado. I was the lead singer there. We have various things that you do at the hostel, you know, as a first year and whatnot. So I was also part of the student representative. So my experience there was quite awesome. I enjoyed myself there. I think that's why I end up working for the university as well, because I really enjoyed the culture.
Okay. I mean, it sounds very attractive to me. Even the colors you're wearing right now, if you were to come to the school. So what does the future look like for the university, or in terms of those who want to come to the school? What does the future look like? Take us into a trip into a decade or so from here.
So at the university, we create programs that allow you to be who you are and who you want to be able to fit into the career path that you have modeled yourself. We give you an opportunity to see yourself in that future and make sure that we give you all the tools to make you a great student, because we're creating citizens for the world within the University of the Free State.
I like that. You're creating, which means that there's room for people who fit into the gig economy. People like creatives, TikTokers, who want to get proper education to learn how to leverage their craft to make money. You have room for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just add on a little bit of that, and then I'm sure you came here with a specific message. I'll give you about a minute to look into your camera. Tidi, I'll start with you, and tell us, all the Ghanaians listening to you right now, why the University of Free State is their choice. This is you.
That's me.
Yeah.
If you want to know about artificial intelligence, we have data science at the university. Please do come and join us. Vibrant University at the central of South Africa. Join us at the Pelican Hotel. We'll be there tomorrow and Thursday.
Well, thank you so much, Tidi. And it's now time for Nomonde to give us her final word.
So we've traveled all this distance to be here, to expose and to profile the University of the Free State. We're here to be at your service, and we would just like them to come and talk to us, and we'll allow them to experience the university through us that are here, and we'll be able to provide them with all the information.
Yes. Let's do that. So you know that there's a, what's it called? A day, an open day. It's a mini open day. That's happening on the 25th and 26th of June at 9 a.m. and it ends at 7 p.m. each day, 2 days. So you can retrace that for our audience too.
Yes, so they need to come and talk to us. We've brought along quite a few of us as the university, because we needed them to come and experience, right? So we are at the Pelican Hotel from 9 to 7 on the 25th and the 26th.
That's tomorrow and Thursday.
And Thursday, yes. So they just need to come and be willing to explore the university through us and be prepared to be blown away.
Fantastic. Before we go, is there an email address, a contact, social media pages, in case someone wants to get more information? Where do they go, Chidi?
They can link up with us on our WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp number that we use. It's +27 86 87 640 6370. Also, again, just to add to what you were saying, when you come, especially if you're an undergraduate tomorrow, please bring your latest high school results. Bring your identity of sort, that you will be able to assist with the application process.
Thank you both so much, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at the Pelican Hotel. Those who joined us for this conversation, Ms. Numunde Mbadi, she's the Director, Student Recruitment Services, and Mr. Chidi Masakala is Assistant Director, Student Recruitment Services, and they're from the University of Free State, asking you to show up tomorrow at the Pelican Hotel and see if there's a place for you, because they assure you that there is. Thank you for coming. All right. Now, this brings us into the second big story that we had for you today. In football, in Ghana, football is more than a game. It's a passion, a lifeline. It's a way out. But beneath the cheers lies a growing danger that has turned stadiums into battlegrounds. In this Hotline documentary titled Scars of Hooliganism, Haruna Mbarak uncovers the brutal toll of fan violence on key stakeholders, including players, referees, and supporters. That comes up now. And that's how we're wrapping the AM show today. But before we go, here are some dedications. Happy birthday to Mrs. Rose Bote Botiokto. May the good Lord bless you for your love. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. May the good Lord bless you for your love, support, and prayers. We couldn't ask for a better mother. We are proud to call you Mommy, and we love you so much. From your girls, Priscilla and Precious, coming through Loretta in studio. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Oh, but I'll be on your screen again for Joy News today. Bye for now.